Welcome everybody back to the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. We banded together 16 teams across 20 teams across 10 countries. There you go. To battle it out, to represent our communities, of course, to be a part of that $10,000 prize pool. My name is Imperium with the wonderful Zute to bring you all the action in day number 5, as we said. And hey, it's coming to the end of the week. Teams after are going to have a 4-day break, so I think now is a time where maybe the teams should be looking to massively ramp things up and end the week on a bit of a high note.
Oh yeah, going into any elongated break, you definitely want to end on a strong note, because after that break, a lot of teams, in my opinion, they have to kind of start over again to get re-warmed up. We see it in other bigger tournaments too. That bigger break can either really change things for the teams for the better or for the worse. But Imperium, taking a look at the overall rankings, this Italy, in my opinion, really shot up, playing yesterday's games. They really, got things together, and the points were actually really close between the top 4. And now I'm seeing somewhat of like a, gap being made by the Italy side.
There's a little bit of a gap, but there's a caveat to that. They've played 4 extra games compared to France, Germany, and Romania. So when I say 4 extra games, I mean in terms of the 2 community teams, if that makes sense, added together. So for example, today they only have 1 team representing them in today's game. So that means compared to France, Germany, and Romania, who have both of their participating teams, it means that there's a less likely chance, unless we see some of them choke, that Italy are going to score less points. So it's going to be up to that sole representative to try and keep Italy at the top of the standings come the end of game 4.
I love that you point that out. So given with that information in mind, pretty much Italy, France, Germany is still just right on track, like neck and neck. Like we've seen after the first 4 initial days, the points were literally within a 10 points difference between the top 4. Now the Nordic country coming into that 5th place slot, I feel like they've kind of shot their way up there as well, because it was like a top 4 grouping. And then after yesterday, we didn't get to see the overalls until today, but now there's like almost like a top 5 grouping, so to say, Spain, with quite a big break or cutoff between 5th and 6th. I believe that's around like a 30-40 plus point gap.
But the problem that the Nordic countries have, at least based on what we've seen across the day so far, that Mega Power have been the biggest contributors of the 213 points that they've gathered so far. They're currently the highest scoring individual team in this PMECT so far, with 159 points. So now it's up to YMCA to soften the blow as much as possible. I highlighted LMV yesterday, and they started the day with a fantastic result. So I'm looking at YMCA. Gotta stand tall. You gotta make that YMCA dance moves, and you have to show up for your region, because there's no Mega Powers in this lobby today.
Speaking about no Mega Power, let's go over the groups that are playing. So for today, groups A, B, C, and E are playing. Group D is sitting out, and Group D includes Red Moon from Italy, Mega Power from the Nordic countries, Greek Army from Greece, and 7-Up from Slovakia, Czech Republic.
Interesting. That is definitely going to be it's going to be something that we're going to have to check out. Like I'm excited to see how it's going to play out. Of course, having Big back in the mix is definitely something that all of the teams will be a little bit aware of, I would argue, because they are the highest eliminating team so far, and 128 eliminations, it speaks for itself. They're not afraid to take these fights.
Yeah, I'm glad that Big is back in the lobby. We were talking about it yesterday, how every time Big is playing, it seems like they are the first one to get in the fight, and their committal rate to the first fight, no matter where it is on the map, is near 100%, if I am not wrong. So now that Big is back, I think all the teams will be watching out for that one aggressive team. Like teams should know where they drop as well. So rotation pathing wise, teams better be ready for that engagement with Big.
Well, we're going to be getting ready to go into game number 1 of the day. It's on the sunny side of Erangel. The playing pass, I've got to say, across these games, and one thing that I've noted, bar a few heavily southern playing paths, they've been pretty healthy. Looking at this one, yes, it's a tiny bit down towards the southeast, but it's diagonal. And a diagonal playing path often allows teams to go for a little bit more of a variable, if it's further away, is successful drop out of the playing path into their looting phase.
Playing path. I think by now every team, even with a bad playing path, should be able to adapt to it. I remember towards the beginning stages of the tournament, the first few days, we had some bad playing paths, which did cause some awkward drops, some awkward fights. But towards day 4, day 5, coming into day 5, even with a bad playing path, I don't imagine we'll see like those awkward fights. If there is one, I've noticed it's more of a committed fight, like a hot drop, like both teams are aware, both teams are ready to take those fights.
Of course, as we've seen throughout the week, teams, some days, every day you have a different group not playing, so that does see a slight adjustment in terms of some of the teams drop spots, should I say. And Showdown, they're going to be happy because there's no Mega Power in this lobby. Therefore, they have Pachinki all to themselves.
Yeah, Mega Power actually, I think they've decided to just leave Pachinki alone entirely. But I will say, after this game, Miramar, Showdown does not have to worry about them and Picado because we saw that fight happen, the Miramar match yesterday. Looking at all the teams, they're still kind of, making their way toward their loot locations. It does not look like there's going to be any hot drop altercations. The Eastern Stars, of course, on that southeastern side that they're known for, that Milta Power split. Game Lords up in Yaz, and a very western circle, so opposite of the plane path. Might change some things up for some teams. I think yesterday we had the same exact thing on Erangel, more or less. And one thing that surprised us is teams rotated really fast into that opposite first circle shift of the plane path.
Yeah, for sure. We were both pleasantly surprised by how quick teams were to get out of the looting phase, or just simply to react to a harsher circle in comparison to the plane path. Looking at Glore on their screens, they're going past the likes of Respect through Headshot Hills. They will most likely go to their South George looting spot, which is complementary to the plane path. So that's something that, although they'll be late to their looting phase, it's already inside the circle. You just still have to be aware of possibly 1 or 2 teams rotating around them, possibly going onto Everest, for example. So if they consider that, they should be good to go.
So now that we're like coming into day 5 Imperium, we've got to witness 4 days, a total of 16 matches, and we're after today we're going to be heading into a little bit of a break. I want to get your thoughts and opinions on just overall, we just finished PMGC, some really high level gameplay, and now we're coming back down to like a community tournament, right? This tournament actually, as far as I'm aware, does not feed into the PMCO, PMPL, PMGC, format. It's like a separate tournament on its own. So given the fact it's not like an official, tournament lineup for the big grand finale of PMGC, how do you feel about these teams? Like, do you feel like some of these teams can be in the PMCO, PMPL? Like, are some of these teams really, have some pro team potential?
Yeah, obviously you have to factor in the fact that there is a bit of a heavier weight with a few teams having already participated in previous PMPLs and even going as far as PMGC. But a couple of teams that I'm very excited about in the year of 2022 are the teams that I've seen in previous PMCOs, but have even stepped up a little bit more to the plate. Mega Power, La Familia, right? Those 2 teams, even Red Moon, the other Italian side, those are the exciting teams. I still worry about the likes of Respect. I don't quite think they're, at least the roster that are competing in this event are quite PMPL ready. I
Mm.
even to an extent worry a little bit about the 100 because
Hmm.
I'm not trying to be harsh, but I feel like there's a level of stagnation unless they're intentionally trying different things in this tournament, unless they're realizing that hey, this isn't the most important tournament in the world, so let's test out a couple of different rotations, pathlines, etc. But at the end of the day, I think every tournament, even a community one like this, is still a situation where you can't take it a little bit more seriously and really nail down a lot of the fundamentals.
I see. I would have to echo your opinions pretty much. And overall, it's I feel like each year the level of any lobby rises a bit. Like I'm noticing, yes, a lot of
Yeah,
these teams, aren't, competing or have competed in PMCO, some in PMPL, even, Eastern Stars out in PMGC. But every time I see the mini map, right? The overall positionings, the overall splits of all of the 16 teams combined together, it looks like a really strong lobby. Like just earlier, we saw on the map overview, teams are pretty much scattered all throughout. They're
yes.
looting, they're not right on top of each other. They're very comfortable with doing split looting. And the first circle, we're 6 minutes in. I wouldn't say the middle's like already being taken up, but a good spread on the map. Teams are taking up a lot of territory all around.
And one thing I love about this kind of tournament, and I'll have an example as to why, is because it's a very inter-Europe tournament. You don't have teams from Turkey, you don't have teams from CS, you don't have teams from the MENA region in this tournament. On one hand, of course, part of why it's great to see tournaments that include both Europeans, Turkish and CIS teams is because the strength of CIS and Turkey does rub on to Western Europe. But a big part of why I love seeing these directly Western Europe tournaments is you take, as an example, the MENA region,
Mm,
easily the most improved region over the past year and a half. And a
yeah.
big part of that is because they held a lot of inter-regional tournaments. They put a lot into those tournaments that had just the MENA teams. And you saw that it culminated with the side of Nigma Galaxy getting third in the PMGC finals. Of course, you
Mhm.
need to have a healthy mix of the likes of the PMPL finals and the PMPL South Asia MENA, but at the end of the day, it starts at the bottom. It starts at the foundation of your own region being developed so that all the teams around there become more competitive and they all challenge each other in a strong way. So this kind of tournament, it's so damn positive for Western Europe.
Mm, I see. I see. Yeah. Nigma Galaxy, you mentioned them. Other than the team itself, that I really started to fall in love with, just based on how consistent they were. Like they weren't like a traditional top team coming out of nowhere that plays very aggressive, right? We see a lot of
Yes.
those. A lot of teams try to refine their aggression, their fighting. Nigma Galaxy kind of came into the fold with a almost like a complete opposite type of pacing and strategy. And in my opinion, for a team to be able to develop that on their own without having the blueprints, so to say, right? Because all the top teams, previous like top three,
Yeah.
were all more on the aggressive side. So they had like a blueprint to study from. But Nigma Galaxy, they kind of forged their own strategy and meta. So that's really cool to see that some teams are still able to kind of change things up.
Big time. Big time. YMCA are going to have to change up how they approach this game. Like I said, the sole Nordic representative in today's 4 games, they've already lost one. I believe now 2 players off the bat. Golden Esports, they started yesterday pretty successfully. I think they grabbed a chicken dinner for themselves in game 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was on those massive high mountains of Miramar. However, Bravus gets involved. Cheeky third party onto one of the Golden Esports players.
Yeah, this player, I think, tried to take an off angle to confirm the flush. Seems like Golden thought there was more than one player there, which is why they got an off angle and throwing those
Yes.
nades. But when you get those different angles, you gotta be aware. During this part in the phase, if you look at the top right of your screen, that blue bar is still filling up, meaning this is during a rotational phase, and you always have to be aware during the rotational phase, there's more than just that one team driving by. There could be another team coming right behind them, and when you try and get an off-angle support, you got to be aware. Another team might just roll up, and Bravos is the team that rolled up, and it looks like they're going to be committing to this fight too.
Especially because this is Pochinki Hill, and if you look at the phase 1, right, you think back, Pochinki Hill is more on the eastern side, and with the plane path being on the southeast, technically more of the cluster, so I definitely think Golden Esports made a bit of a mistake. You can see on your map, teams are centering up. You do have one of the teams, I think it's Showdown Gaming on top of Everest. Respect opens the door onto the members of Big. Yes, Nacho is knocked. At the end of the day, they have the body advantage. Big trying to get the revives off. Beast was caught out. He's most likely going to lose his life. The third player from Big does get revived off Sway with the nade, but he's going to get thrown out just like that. Goat, very well done. Not letting up. Respect need to push this. There you go. He takes his own teammate out. You feel bad. Just now, me and Mizara left alive.
We talked about Big always being a very aggressive team, but one thing we didn't mention is that they usually win those fights. They don't usually lose them, and you question Rexpect a little bit coming into today, or not coming into today, just in general, Rexpect, right? You weren't sure where they kind of stood. You feel like they could do better. Well, maybe that, one day break from yesterday from Big is really throwing things off, because I did not expect a team like Rexpect to take down Big so easily.
And I also, honestly, I just think that's over. I just think that's going too deep in the circle for Big. They're not known to be a team that go too deep into the circle in the early phases. Now, again, maybe they're trying something different, but I still look at that, and especially on phase 1. And of course, phase 2 shifting up north has maybe exaggerated that, but I still believe they went a bit too deep and they paid the price. Having the river in play on this phase 2 makes the cube compound on this side of the river, just outside of George Paul, an absolute hot spot to hold on to.
I think the hottest spot is actually where we saw that fight just now, right? It's circled quite literally centered up there. And that spot is a strong power position. Yesterday, we saw a team play that area of the map where the game ended somewhat close to that area, and they secured a second place finish pretty easily. And Mount Everest as well coming into the fold of things. I don't think we've seen a Mount Everest fight this entirety of the tournament so far, but we might just see one now as Showdown readjusts to LMB pushing on up. Great shots, great overwatch as the player tries to retreat. So Showdown Gaming will be able to reset their defense a little bit. But the question is, will LMV now decide to continually push this, as the fight will get very difficult for the aggressive team, and they are going to decide to push this?
In my opinion, Showdown made the classic mistake of holding down the center of Everest. That's a no-no in my eyes. It's the easiest way to get breached, not only from the east, but also the west. If you're going to hold down Everest, you hold down one side alone. And now we're seeing LMV push up. Talon's down to a little bit of health. Lou also is going to feel the brunt of the shots from the Showdown players. It's not out of the waters just yet for Showdown, to give them credit. They haven't lost a player. I'm just saying they've allowed LMV to push up to a certain extent. They've allowed that threat to become a little bit more accessible. Lots of smokes being utilized. Naz for Showdown Gaming, I've got to say, he's in an absolutely beautiful position for his side.
Naz with the off angle, so to say, a little bit off to the left, and playing very quiet. So he's playing this very correctly. If he plays any louder, LMV might be able to figure that he's like an isolated player, so to say, and go around and hit him from the side. Showdown Gaming, though, does take the first casualty. Malik does go down, and there we go. Naz on that angle will reset the fight, kind of get that trade in. And oh, Eastern Stars in the kill feed, actually third party LMV. So LMV starting to get sandwiched in, and Eastern Stars can take this as a third party opportunity, and they indeed are. You see them coming up on top of Mount Everest now as well.
I low-key feel sorry for LMV, but then again, you gotta think, how long have they been here for? It's still only phase 2, so possibly they weren't expecting too much, which I can get behind. Showdown, they can stand back, they can allow Eastern Stars to do most of the work, and maybe a bit of a cheeky third party from Showdown Gaming. They have gotten Malik back up to full health, so still a full squad in play. Perks turns around, but he's going to get knocked from behind by Ayo. Perfect third party play from Showdown Gaming. Hidan drops down to his knees. Talon left on his own. He's the last hope, the last surviving play. 3 first aids, he needs to pull one off. Swings around the side of the rock, but he is going to get taken down by Naz. Job done, LMV, they get compounded, but now the focus is for Eastern Stars. They look to challenge Showdown, but that's a lovely spray by La Familia. Kapahala, he gets caught with his pants down.
Kapahala, nowhere close to this fight. I think Kapahala was looking for a long-range side angle on top of this fight. I mean, I respect it, you know, get multiple angles. You see how difficult it is in Mount Everest to just take a fight by going directly into the enemy team. So Kapahala trying to find that angle. Did not work out for him, though, because he does get caught from a different team. It was a long-range knock, though, so maybe that team is not going to go confirm the thirst. Eastern Stars now backing off as they have lost their player on that.
O'Doran. A bit of a risky position to stop, but it was enough of a bait for Athos to get a knock into IU. Unfortunately, with Doran further back down at the bottom of the hill, they can't really push on that. But I would argue that they need to take that knock and disengage fully away. Phase 3 has gone back down south. Around this western edge of Everest is going to be easy pickers for the likes of Chazank to rotate to, possibly YMCA, even La Familia and L. This side of Uncanny up and towards the northern side. Either way, Eastern Stars are committing.
I love that adjustment. Their Kapahala got knocked to a third party, but they kept one player overwatch. The rest went back to kind of reset, and that's where that knock came in through. The formations are set up beautifully. The executions to save a teammate, you know, that got their party was set up perfectly. They didn't disengage the fight fully. They kept one player to keep watch, and that knock came through, and right when they got that revive, they're back on the push. This time around, they're using a more direct approach, especially since the circle did shift once again. You can't take too many angles as the circle gets smaller and smaller.
Showdown Gaming, they've been on Everest for about 10 minutes, and I gotta give them credit. I didn't like how they initially positioned themselves. A little bit of luck with Eastern Stars. They're still here. They're still fighting. Athos puts Malik down to his knees. This is like the third time Eastern Stars has kind of gotten the initial knock, but because a revive was initially being played out onto Kapahala, they weren't pushing it. Now, as a full squad, they really need to push it. Time's a ticking. Phase 3 is going to start closing in the next minute.
Yeah, they're working their way in. I just hope Eastern Stars has an anchor player in the back that's also keeping watch of the flank. They don't want what happened to LMV happen to them. And yes, I do see another team coming into the mix. It is Glore on the eastern side of Mount Everest now.
The third partiers become the third party. That's the way the cookie crumbles on Everest, and that is a big reason of why I highlight Central Everest being a poor part of holding down on Everest. I know they were kind of pushing more towards the west, but at the end of the day, when the foundational position allowed, you know, LMV to push up, then Eastern Star, it was technically a matter of time. And credit to Glore, the team they struggled in the past. Showdown Gaming realized, screw this, we're out of here. Eastern Stars, you can have it. Glore, you can have it. We're getting out of here.
Eastern Stars actually got knocked by Chazmok Gaming just now. It was a long range knock. I believe Chazmok's probably playing at the compounds west of the Mount Everest. So there's a chance though. Chazmok might want to decide to push up this mountain as well. We've seen a total of 4 teams up here just over the past 5-6 minutes.
To the point where we haven't really had much of an idea of where the other teams are. The action has been so packed on Everest, which is great to see. For many men, you can see really feeling the pressure. Can play the game, I'll test you. That's what Golden Esports are saying to them right now. Yes, Chief went down early on. They've been able to at least reinvest that to get 2 eliminations, followed by a potential third on the Sarah. Great spray by Louis. 4 many men down to just 1 player.
4 Romanian men still having a lot of trouble. 100 not 100 daddies. Oh my gosh.
Jesus.
V100 Daddy IGL there. You see him with an arm. You see how fast Marlowski peaked. I'm pretty sure Malowski does know how player has an arm, so he's not taking those extended
Nope.
peeks, those extended sprays. Yeah, 100 from V100 Daddy IGL with that arm.
Oh
And
my
whoa,
god.
I think the blood sacrifices on top of Mount Everest has spoken to the circle gods of PUBG. The circle gods of PUBG accept the sacrifices, and we will be ending on top of Mount Everest.
Mount Everest, known for its white capped mountainsides, a beautiful view. We'll turn that white into red because it's going to be absolutely full of blood. Eastern Stars are aware of that, and they're like, nope, Glor, you can stay on top of there. Another team can breach you. This means the kind of edge of Everest, which at times can work, but when you have 3 or 4 teams around that edge, it just becomes so much more difficult, as we saw Eastern Stars losing to Kappa Hallandor left alive.
Yeah, so Glor holds strong. This could be a really big game for them. Glor definitely one of the teams that have been performing over the past couple of days on the lower end of team performance, but with the circle, with the Mount Everest positioning, I mean, they just held back Eastern Stars of all teams. I
Yeah.
think this team is starting to look a bit livelier than usual as Chasmog getting a fight into Lemniscate. Kapahala, last player of Eastern Stars, in the circle but forced to play extremely quiet and hide behind his buggy.
Back once again starting the skating with the 3+ team, which is a shame. Galore! 5 eliminations so far. Looking for more. They find Switchblade, turn around onto one of the Lemniscate players, holding it down. And look at the spread they have. That spread is pretty damn perfect. It's a little bit on the western side, but it's not too deep on the west. It's just low-key holding down the center. At this stage of the game, I don't think it matters too much if you hold a bit more of the center. But again, that spread is pretty damn perfect.
Yeah, I love the spread here, and they don't have to worry too much about the eastern side, right? Earlier stages of the Mount Everest, yes, teams will try and push up the middle, but this is the late game. Teams just want to get into zone and stay in zone. So whatever eastern team is on Mount Everest, I'm sure they're dealing with a very similar situation where there's multiple teams encroaching it as well. And a very good nade by Pocus. That is Lemniscate taken out.
Take care then. Bye-bye now, Lemniscate. Between YMCA and Chasmac, they could only hold it down for so long. I still think Rex Spectre in a pretty damn good spot because they have the angle of fire and cover on both the 100 and Game Lord. Yeah, okay, the 100 do have a bit of a spread. You can't really argue with it. But with the circle of phase 5 shifting up and going north, still Everest is in play and they have to move in.
Everest, this is a 50-50. There is the low ground of Everest that we can see teams play and survive in. These ridges that, create Mount Everest are deep pockets where teams can kind of, drive in, lay down a bunch of smokes, and survive for the next few circles. And talk about surviving. Malik, the last player up alive for Showdown, trying to get that revive onto Naz. You can see the lines of sight. So many players can potentially take him out here, but they're so caught up with other fights happening 360 all around them.
It's like you have the low ground, and normally that will work. But when you have Everest right in front of you, that just isn't really going to be the safest play. At the end of the day, they're forced to stay where they are as a 2-person team. Salazar is going to go down, knocked by one of the Game Lore players, and now Galore. Still continued spread, this time on the southwestern edge of the circle. La Familia are just saying, hey, we're going right up. We're not taking any shortcut. We're going straight in there in between both Respect and Glore.
Going straight in. Showdown Gaming still manages to stay alive. They're doing a kind of a 1-1 split. I like this in the late game simply because if one player gets caught out in one position, chances are your teammate that's right next to you will also end up going down. So just maximizing what players they have left. Glor still holding the top of Mount Everest, adjusting really nicely back towards the center of Mount Everest with that zone shift. They're up to 6 elims as well. Rex, Nacho going for that YOLO rotation. He's checking all of these divots, all of these pockets. Can he find one that's open? He does manage to find one, but sandwiched between 2 different teams. I don't think it's going to work out for Nacho. Nacho does go down to Bravis.
At least they've gone down to his compatriot. Team Bravis pick up the kill, so it's like teaming, you know, even though it's definitely not on purpose, like, you know, I passed the baton on to you, Team Bravis. Team Bravis did take down Chazmat Gaming, so they were having a pretty good game themselves. I would argue that this side of Glore maybe left that door a little bit too open for YMCA, but I think YMCA are not taking the bait. The next circle does kind of center up with the edge of Everest on play. And this is going to mean the YMCA, even though it's a duo, are going to push on in. This is a clean chance for a squad wipe.
Lyrics just happened. It's like Christmas morning for him right now. He peeks over that ridge and he sees 4 players just fully exposed in the open. Takes a nice little spray, knocks down one, could easily get the second. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more greedy here. There we go, taking some peeks.
Oh no!
Falls down a little bit. He's fine though. He could go right back up, and yes, a 1 grenade would be massive here.
I feel sorry a little bit for Team Bravis. It's the last thing you kind of expect. Mofi Boy into Uncanny into Doctor. Glore, the 100. Daddy picking off the revive to Reznov, trying to stay alive. BG sang about it in the 70s, and the 100 are singing about it right now. Team Glore, 7 eliminations and counting, but Prek is knocked. Masha doing what he can to try and heal up in time. Once the revive is laid down, I'll keep them up as a full squad. How are Bravas still alive? YMCA, unfortunately, have not been able to fully capitalize to get a cheeky squad wipe.
YMCA had 1 player knocked, so they slow down their aggression to get that revive. Showdown Gaming with that 1-1 split, still making it work. Both players still up. Naz playing, you know, kind of spoiler right here. Takes down 1 player, almost gets the second. Oh my god, he does! Naz, very well played. He will lose his life to the blue zone, but that's because they did that 1-1 split. He does have a player that's in the zone still, and he can farm some kills and keep his teammates' backside clear of third partying.
A little bit like the Spanish community happened to be on the UK teammate Showdown Gaming, pick up 2 extra kills. 4 teams left. Bravis, YMCA, Team Glore, and I believe it's the last surviving players of Uncanny, if I'm not mistaken. This is such a risky area of the circle to end in, right? This is so difficult. I've got to give props to really all of these remaining 4, even 6 teams. Nobody expected a circle to end here.
Definitely not. I don't even think in previous tournaments we've seen circle shifts so focused on Mount Everest, zone after zone after zone. Sometimes it's that crazy hard shift that you know, centers up onto Mount Everest, but quite literally, it's been the Mount Everest the entire time since the beginning. Couple fights, we've been on this mountaintop. Now Glore down to 3, YMCA with 2. They're both on that high ground, and the circle did shift uphill. I don't think Bravis and Uncanny will have much left to say in this engagement. It'll most likely come down to YMCA and Glore, but Bravis getting a bit closer. If they can somehow wipe out YMCA and climb up that mountaintop, Bravis could make it to the end game as top 3 or top 2.
It's been a really dignity heels in game for YMCA. They lost a player early on. They then lost the second player, and this duo has been doing a wonderful job of staying alive and being proactive as much as they can. Glore gets a knock on the Bravis. You're dead right. And the biggest thing for Glore is that they were able to make it down this slightly side part of this mountain without getting pushed too heavily by YMCA. It does push on this next phase towards YMCA. It's absolutely flat in between Glore and YMCA. This could be a very good win for the Nordic side.
Joker from the Uncanny. He's got a grenade in his hand. He just tossed it out. Did not connect to the Glore members though. Glore up to 12 eliminations. Now with this circle, it does favor YMCA a little bit. Glore's got to push out first because the blue zone will be on the backs before it is on the backside of YMCA. And with that knock, Glore really needs to take advantage of it. But Joker, they never dealt with Joker. And Joker gets a knock on the side. And Joker's pushing up aggressive now, trying to play spoiler. YMCA will be able to get that much needed reset. And Joker is causing so much trouble. He needs to get taken out now.
Just like the Joker, the deck of cards, he comes out to play strikes in the last moment, but unfortunately he goes down. The damage has been done. YMCA get the revive. It's 1v2 with the blue zone pushing on to Nasha. I can't see him surviving. YMCA, with the help from Joker of Uncanny, grabs himself some possible chicken dinner. He's moving around. He has one more first aid. He's not going to be able to push it off. He's going to deny the kill, and it's a YMCA win.
YMCA, the two-man squad. I believe towards the late game, it was just the two of them for quite a while, and you see 2 kills and 3 kills on those 2 players. YMCA finish this with a very low, elim count of chicken dinner, but that was just amazing to see, right? They did not have a dominant control of Mount Everest, such as Glor, who picked up a lot of eliminations, but they managed to play Mount Everest in a way where they kind of just played quiet, played in the pockets, kept to themselves, which is not easy to do on a mountaintop like Mount Everest, but they still secured the chicken dinner, so really good job out of YMCA.
Yeah, can't argue with it, but once again, such a good game. This is genuinely what I love about PUBG Mobile, is that between the circle shifts, between the dynamics of different teams playing, anything can happen, and there's always something different on the menu per se. And the circle ending was more than satisfying. I'm full after that game 1 already, and we still have 3 to go. Credit and props, Zute, by the way, to Team Bravis. There's not Bravis, I mean Glor, because they're actually coming into today as the lowest scoring team in their game so far, which has only been 12 games. It's been 16 games. They've scored a total of 24 points in 12 games. 24 points in 12 games, and they come into this one and they get 12 eliminations, and they dominate the tail end and throughout the latter half of the Everest game. That's what I love, is that we're seeing these teams evolve, never say die, stepping up and improving.
Yeah, the last thing I want to note about Glor is that they've played so badly all the previous days, yet they still decided to be the team to try and take the Mount Everest top. So they are not giving up. They're not playing, beneath their level. Instead, they're making plays and decisions at, thinking they're a top caliber team. And you got to play and think that way for those results to happen. And this time around, it did work out for Glor. Very happy to see.
Well, in the words of Rick Astley, I'm never going to give you up. I'm never going to let you down. Right after we come back from this break, highlights, match rankings, don't go away. welcome back to the PMECT, the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament with myself, a nationally recognized caster Imperium, alongside an internationally recognized caster and analyst, Zute.
Game for the books. I think out of all the days that we have played or watched in casting, that was my favorite so far. It was just a straight up Mount Everest ending from beginning to end. Not just, you know, Mount Everest in the end game. It was quite literally from the beginning. And shout outs to our cameraman for catching pretty much almost like every single blood sacrifice made on top of that mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, credit where it's due. Looking at the match rankings, though, we talked about them. They didn't get the chicken dinner, but with the 13 eliminations in total and the second place at 12 points, Team Glore are your highest point scoring team, should I say, with 25 points.
I believe you said while we were watching those that game that Glore has scored 24 points over the course of 12 games.
Yes.
So in one game alone, they outscored what they've managed to do in 12 games. Now yes, like 2 points per game for 12 games is very, very low. So for them to outscore all of that in one game alone, yeah, of course it's because they scored so terribly, but you have to just realize from Team Glore's perspective, like, if we can do what we just did in one game equal to more than what we've done in 12 games, that just means they have the potential to be a really strong team. And just for whatever reasons, in those 12 previous games, they have struggled, you know, in the entirety of all 4 days, but they have the knowledge, they have the teamwork to close out a game with 25 points.
I'm just a big fan of like underdog stories and teams rising up and stepping up and evolving throughout a tournament. I'm a massive fan of that, and I'll always get behind that. That's why I look at this from Team Glore and I'm like, hell yes. Hell to the yes. And I can even say the same about YMCA to an extent. Not as much, but that 20 points in this game number 2 and the chicken dinner, not only is it really kind of working in the shadows of Mega Power, who has been the highest point scoring team in this lobby, but it is our highest point scoring game so far by a pretty long shot. Before this, they had 2 17-point games, so having this 20 in game 1 is great. I'd love to see it continue, though. I do not want to see a 0-pointer from YMCA in game 2. Add to that consistency. Don't take that 20-pointer away by scoring 0 points in game 2.
I want to see the same out of Team Glore as well, right? This is a Team Glore that we have never seen. I want to see them run it throughout the rest of the day. And I love how you mentioned YMCA and Mega Power, right? Because at the beginning of the broadcast, you said Mega Power has been the one really carrying YMCA, being the highest scoring team in the overall lobby. And YMCA step up huge in the very first game, getting those 20 points, and Glore also stepping up huge.
Yes,
like our story, our narration for the past few days was always teams that have not been doing well step up day after day after day. And now coming into the 5th day, literally the team that has scored the least amount of points in the entirety of all the 20 teams spread across, they get 25 points. So what's left, Imperium? Like, I think everybody has at one point or another stepped up and showed out.
Exactly. And you know, it's also great to feature teams that are not as heavily featured, right? Because it's sometimes so easy to talk about the likes of Eastern Stars, Game Lord, Ig, because they have the recognition they have, right? But I love being able to feature these kind of teams and them showing that and giving that deserved amount of praise because they do step up. And we're looking at Eastern Stars and Romania men, 4 points together in this game 1. Game Lord and Chazmak, 8 points together. Italy having a poor day as well, because La Familia only got 5 points as well. So this is where, you know, Germany, big in LMV, getting 0 points. We're seeing, even though, and I know it's only game 1, we're seeing actually the Nordic region who only has one team representing it today, actually coming out really the more featured, more heavy based team in this game one, and it's great. It's going against the narrative, and sometimes that's what makes Portugal just so damn amazing.
And it is only one game down though, right? We need to see the entirety of the day, how it plays out, and if the trend continues day by day, it's a big shift. We've seen teams really step up for the entirety of the day. Every time that underdog story is brought up, they dominate more or less for the day. So Glory and YMCA, a good start to the day, but like you mentioned, if they score a 0-pointer in the next 2 games, that 25 points just instantly averages out to way lower points per game. But Glory must be fueled up. I feel like they must be motivated now after such a huge game. And like, it's a team that's been playing 4 matches a day back to back. Imagine how early they go out each time, averaging 2 points a game. This is probably the first game where they managed to like play the entirety of the game, and the feeling of that just must be really refreshing for them, really invigorating. So I hope to see them continue that that momentum into Miramar, into Sandhawk, and then of course we are going to end it off with an Erangel at the end of the day. But I want to see them, you know, push it out strong before we go into like a 5-day break or so.
Exactly, it's a 4-day break we're going to be going into. So you're dead right. It's like their name is Team Glore. They've removed the L, and then they've got all the gore. See what I did there? I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it, man. I didn't even know it.
Or you could say they're Team Glory, but they changed the E at the end to a Y because they're going for that glory now. They got it. They got it with them on game 1. Can they get it for the rest of the day?
We should go on the road with this, man. We'd be millionaires in no time. We'd be perfect. We'd be perfect. You're dead right though about the consistency, because I highlighted it with another team, and you're dead right about Team Glore. It does continue to shake up the standings. I don't think it was a bad game from the Spanish community as well, considering where they stand, 6th place in the standings. Bravos, I know, man, they're starting to become one of my favorite teams in this event, because I saw how they stepped up to the plate a couple of days ago, and they got 12 points in the first game of the day. We're heading into Miramar. I want to see more from them as a playing path. Again, it's not too bad.
Yeah, another very good playing path, especially on a map like Miramar. I think even on Miramar, we're starting to see teams kind of figure out where to drop, how to drop, regardless of the playing path. And teams are definitely, you know, evolving day after day. We see less and less scrap hot drop fights, where it's more of a committed fight. Of course, we do have Picado, but with one of the teams not being in here, where they usually have, you know, troubles fighting in Picado, Picado should be free for that for a team to take. And I think this pacing of the game has slowed down overall as far as the beginnings of the game go, because teams just really, like I said once again, figured out where to drop and how to get there.
Yeah, do you think it's a little bit of kind of mutual respect, where they're like, look, we're learning, we know where you're dropping, we know who's dropping around us, let's stick to our own game and evolve how we're playing?
It is definitely mutual respect, but even from a competitive aspect, right, it's more correct to play this way, because eventually you take PMGC into consideration, and PMGC, nobody is hot dropping each other, maybe on the first day, but very quickly all teams just understand, hey, a hot drop has a lot of RNG involved. It is not the best way to start off a match. We're going to just, you know, respect each other and play it out from our, you know, irrespective drop locations, and play the game out naturally that way. So with these teams as well, that is pretty much kind of what they're starting to gear more towards. So it's not just the respect, but it's also the competitive practice. That's the best way to get it done. And I think we do see Glore losing a member very early on to Rex on that northern side. Both teams doing somewhat of a similar split drop in similar areas. So Glore down to 3, not a good start for them.
It's not a good start, but I'm going to hold out judgment and reservation until they take their last breath, right?
Hmm.
Yes, losing a player in Miramar is not healthy, but it's also not the end of the world. Phase 1 has popped up. It's complementary to the playing path. It's nicely across the whole of the mainland. A little bit tickling on the south side, of course. And with Los Leones nearly in the center, that's something that the teams will want to consider, because you don't really want to go anywhere near Los Leones, only the high grounds to the north and the high grounds to the east and the south and the west. So once again, that's something that the teams need to consider, because that being in the center technically takes a good chunk of the landmass away from the teams.
Hmm. With the first circle up, teams get a decent understanding of what positions they might want to take, as far as which positions are a good hopping off point for further rotations. But other than that, no team should really commit to any central position. Eastern
Yes.
Stars, once again, on the very eastern side of the map. Actually, when I was casting PMGC and watching these teams play, or watching Eastern Stars play, I noticed they
Yeah,
do actually start off the game from the east quite often. Now, I don't know
they do.
if that influences their team name or if it was just coincidence.
I think it initially, because they were known previously as, oh my god, I forget the name of the previous team, or what was the previous roster. Oh my god, I should know this. I'm sorry, Romanian community, but my point is, they did change their name, and I believe Eastern Stars was influenced by the fact that they predominantly drop on the eastern side of the maps. However, one thing that I think Eastern Stars have evolved very heavily on is the fact that they will drop on the western side of the maps should the playing path not allow an eastern drop. It's
Mm.
something they adjusted towards the latter part of the 2021 year, and I think it has worked out very well for them. Hell, they got to PMGC, so it kind of speaks for itself. So even though they're still Eastern Stars by name, they're by no means absolutely Eastern Stars by playstyle. They will go to the west if they need to.
Okay. Well, map is back on your screen. We see big with a very big rotational split. I don't know if that's the split they're meaning to set up as far as in the very first circle, which by no means am I against. I think that split, given the first circle, given that each player is pretty much on the high ground, hopefully, yeah, it's definitely manageable. For Romanian men, you mentioned Los Leones, kind of more towards that
Yeah.
central area. I think there's still looting in there. We got teams like LMV all the way up to the northeast, who's got a long trek ahead of them. But with this first circle on Miramar, it's one of the easier circles to navigate around. All you got to do is look at the roads left on
Yes.
the map, right? There's roads stretching from west to east, north to south, a lot of different ways to rotate around into this circle. Unlike sometimes we see a circle on the far southwest, right? That's probably the most difficult circle as far as the first circle goes for teams to manage to get into.
I think in this scenario, again, based on the fact that I suppose we have all the information in the world, but I don't see any drops that are outside of the norm, at least in what the teams have shown. A team that probably has a bit of a harder task is Lemniscate up in La Cabrera, because you're gonna realistically gonna be wrapping around the eastern side of Crater Fields, and then just shy south of that you have Rexpect, you have Gaylord in San Martin, you have a couple of teams basically in their path line. So Lemskate really do need to take a step by step, maybe wait until the latter part of phase 1 until phase 2 pops up to really kind of make a move into the circle.
Mm-hmm. Glore down to 3, like we mentioned earlier. Luckily for them, they do manage to keep all 3, and Rex was not overly aggressive and hunted them down. Glore also will be able to get some decent loot from that position, but you can tell they're not really prioritizing a rotation at this point, since they did kind of have a slower start by losing their member. Not against that at all. Golden on your screen making their rotation down, doing a quick little stop scout, or taking a shot with a Winchester as well. This player using a Winchester UMP
Let's
with
go.
no
Let's
first
go.
aid kits. Not
Let's
the
go.
most ideal setup. And Big, who other than Big,
What you mean?
to get an off.
Best loadout in the game. Best loadout in the game. Winchester and can't go wrong with it. Can't go wrong with it, man.
Big in a fight with Showdown Gaming. We saw Big earlier with that huge split. It looks like they have grouped up to try and take this position, a very strong position in the first circle. And Showdown Gaming know it as well. And 1-for-1 knock. Oh, that's another one. PMECT getting a crucial second opening onto the side of Big. Now, Big got destroyed by Rexpect in game 1. Is this the same Big that we saw in the first few days? Well, before I even answer that question, 4 Romania men now getting involved. This is the third time, or the third parties, I mean, today have been in tip-top form.
Shots coming after this wave, gets one knock, looks for a drop on the back, nearly gets it out, needs to reload. Great support from Mizawa in the back line. Mickey coming on towards the angle, and that's going to be the end of Showdown. It looked good for them, but Big keep their composure. I don't know how much of a third party was involved with 4 remaining men. I don't think there was any involved. I believe that was all Big, baby, and they come out on top, but now they have very little time to breathe as 4 Romanian men. They want to capitalize on it.
He got the knock.
Yes, he
Bravis
did.
got the knock from that distance, but hold on, hold that thought. We're back to the fight. Big continuing the fight with 4 Romanian men. Michi getting a nice grenade right there. It's a 4v3 situation. It looks like Big is starting to get the pressure. Big has gotten the high ground peak right there, and another player 4 Romanian go down. Big definitely taking revenge for what happened in game 1, going out so early. But wait a second, a huge flank by 4 Romanian men. Saras definitely needs to get some more knocks here. I think he did manage to get one. Does slow the momentum out of Big a little bit. Big has caught between 2 different decisions now, pushing forwards or worrying about the flank.
I think the one thing that Big should be doing is getting the revive. However, tracking the amount of knocks they've gotten into 4 Romanian men, I think they'll be a little bit more comfortable getting the revive. Lovely nade by Redox. Jumps in, goes for the shots on the Mihi. Has to be careful not to overstep his mark. Switches over, but that's going to be the end as Mizawa cleans up. And this is Big. Back in tip-top form. 7 eliminations. 10 minutes into the game. Let's go.
That was impressive. That was the Big that I missed watching yesterday.
I know, right?
And I don't think we've seen Big show up that hard in the initial engagement. It's always been a 4v4 where they win, right? Now that was like a back-to-back 4v4. And now, so you mentioned that there was no real third party by the 4 Romanian men onto Showdown Gaming, and you're absolutely correct. But it was very evident that the way Showdown Gaming played was pressured by the fact that the 4 Romanian men were behind them, and they were forced to really just push into the face of Big, and that's where they lost those fights so resoundingly.
Well, just like your alarm sounding off, it seems like Big didn't miss their alarm to wake up and smell the coffee in this Miramar game. Great start by them. Phase 2 pops up. It does shift to the south, but to me, that's kind of the best kind of shift because it eliminates a good half of Los Leones. And you eliminate half of Los Leones, that's always a good sign in my eyes. Picado Hill's still in play. You have the side of Game Lord have moved from San Martin to overtake that hillside. They're putting pressure onto another team. Uncanny to the north of them. Chazmac, they're going right for a center spot.
Bravis with that circle shift is also in the center. Really good positioning for them. Uncanny rotating in, using that road, very fast rotation. Roads are still quite in play, but as the circles keep shifting, these compounds next to these roads will start being set up and taken, and it's essentially the road is no longer as safe as you might imagine. Yes. Game Lord on top of the mountain with only 3 players, SLR in hand, taking a look around, scoping around. This player won't be able to do much, but he will be able to get a lot of information out for his team.
I like that 4-man rotation by Uncanny. And I even like the stopgap. It might not be the most sensible spot to drop, but again, going there as a full squad, it means that should you get a little bit caught out, higher chance you're going to get a revive. It might be a little bit too safe, but with how Uncanny are in terms of their skill level, I think it's better for them at this stage. Eastern Stars, LMV, the battle outside of Impala. It's coming through. Doran has no time to get off a nade. And in through the door, Talon says, "Hi, I'm here. Goodbye. This is my house."
What is going on with the Eastern Stars? They're not playing like the Eastern Stars that I remember. I mean, granted, it's only been they had one bad game, right? On top of Mount Everest, they get taken out by, or they lose two members to Glore. But seeing them just lose a player like that, holding a split where the team of Eastern Stars were in no position to support or pressure whatsoever, they're just not playing effective splits either. It
No.
seems.
Yeah, it seems like Eastern Stars are in a little bit of a rut. They didn't look the best in yesterday's games. We're not really looking best in today's games. Can't really put my finger on the buddy other than it's just the way they're playing at the moment and just not question it so much. Lore won the previous game, or well, sorry, got the highest points in the previous game. I would arguably say they're taking a much bigger challenge than ever so far if they're going up against Big with how big are looking in this game.
Back onto the Uncanny side, just chilling at the compound, and Big, well, once again on your screen, taking a fight with, oh my, whoa. He just launched that buggy into the face of Glore, hopped out, and absolutely destroyed the Glore team. Glore is out, and once again, it's not just one fight that they're involved in, it's two fights back to back.
Exactly. Like, Glore kind of got third party. I don't know exactly how they rotated. I would just say, honestly, when you lost a player early on, you probably went too deep into the circle, and that's the price you pay. Like you said, Big, it's not just one, it's two teams. Mihi gets knocked. The 100 looking to push on this. Beast
really
in the supporting angle. And I love the flank. They've been able to get the revive, but another nade by Boss. Bit of a mistake, but Mazzaro clutches up. He gets one knock. Daddy pushes forward. That side angle by Swave is great because it pushes back the members of the 100 a little bit more. After the first aid gets laid out, Mazzaro finishes the kill off. Daddy is going to use his teammate as a bit of a meat shield. Once again, Mihi going for the revive. I don't agree with this. Just leave it. Let it go. Focus on the fight. You're slowing yourself down. Reznov goes on the angle. He flanks around, but he's going to take a decent bit of damage. He gets knocked. Where's the team-wide support? Mazzaro gets one. Gets it two. This is the three-piece from the Albanian.
Mazzaro is a one-man army. He does finally get knocked by Will from the long-range angle, and now it's down to 1v1. A Big better win this one. Mazzaro put in so much work. The jiggles back and forth, and Big does come out on top. This is their fourth fight of the match. Fourth fight back to back. 12 eliminations already. We're down to 39 alive, and everyone else in the lobby must be scratching their heads and just wondering, what did Big eat for breakfast today?
Man, sweet Mary, Mother Joseph. They got their Weetabix, they got their vitamins, they said their prayers. All of the words that you want to use, they are firing on all cylinders. Yes, they're down to two players, but in my eyes, that return on investment couldn't be any better. That's like Bitcoin level of return on investment right now. Like to the moon, baby. To the moon. Man,
Mazzaro.
you said it. Down to 39 players, though. You know, that lobby is definitely shrinking, just like the next circle has shrank, and it's gone down to southeast.
You talk about to the moon. Mazzaro right now is living on top of the moon. He had two different players pressure in from two exposed angles, and he also was trying to get that revive in at the same time, and he managed to get them both. First from the front, and then immediately on a side angle from the left. Like, Mazzaro is built different. That's all I gotta say.
It's honestly, it's part of why he was one of the most exciting players in Europe last year, and a big reason why he was re-picked up by this kind of big roster. They played with him in the PMPL spring split. They didn't play with him in the fall split. But for the 2022 year, it just made sense. The synergy is kind of somewhat already pre-built. And I know that Mazzaro is a player that didn't really have his own level of maybe familiarity so much as in he was a very talented fragger, but really didn't have as much intelligence. Well, he's evolved quite heavily, and we've seen it prove up. Just like Focus is proving why he's one of the strongest close quarter combat players, but he can't deal with all the pressure dealt by Bravis, and he goes down.
Where's the rest of Chazmok? Focus was just stuck out there in no man's land, completely surrounded by Bravis. Kudos to him, though, for managing to get a knock and a thirst in a 1v4 while being surrounded. We're back onto the big, I mean, this is the big show right now. I don't know how much they could do more, though, with just two players left on the team, Suave and Mazzaro. Even if they were to go out now, 12 points in one match is really good, even if it's 0 placement points. Like, 12 points from eliminations alone. I believe they took down 4 teams. The first team came with the second
Pretty
team,
much.
and then Glor came with the 100. So that's 4 teams just pretty much gone and out of the lobby because of Big.
Like that's a better deal than Black Friday. You know, you couldn't ask for that kind of deal right now. Just like La Familia couldn't ask for a bit of a trickier situation to be in as Wasted gets knocked. Eastern Stars, yes, they lost Door, and they've been able to huddle back up together as a 3-person team, swinging through the fences of Phase 3 Blue Zone. They're in the dead center, so it's great, but they shouldn't really be pushing on this too much, because I feel if they push on this too much, the likes of YMCA, possibly LMV, depending on where the next circle shifts, could pick them off. We see in the feed up and towards the northern side, edge of the circle, Game Lord and Big are still making noise. They're still taking shots. They're still puffing up their chest.
I mean, they realize as 2 players, hey, we don't have much control or, you know, territory that we can control in the zone. But what we can do is just shoot teams trying to rotate past. I can't really fully commit, right? So they're taking fights on the edge against teams that might not really want to play that edge. Maybe they're just looking to rotate. So Big trying to take advantage of that potential scenario. Uncanny, very good adjustments and rotations, still finding a decent compound in the zone. Big down to 2, of course. Do they even, I think they do, they must have vehicles. Yeah, they will have vehicles to rotate. Next circle does shift on up. I believe it did shift further south, and Game Lord, well, they might be just taking the fight to Big this time around, which is exactly what Big wants.
Yeah, has shifted down to southeast. So he is just on that western edge of Los Leones. LMV have a full squad up, and they spread the control. It's absolutely theirs. Mizawa throws another nade, and that is so close. Victor, the French gods have answered, and you're still alive. Jesus. Feel a little bit bad for Mizawa's down. He goes. Stayed apart. As well as Swave. That's the end of Big. Honestly, you can't hold that against them. You can't.
Not at all.
How many fights they took and how long they stayed alive, the amount of eliminations. I salute you, Big.
Oh, yeah. Big the Grim Reaper of the lobby. 4 teams out because of them early on, too. But now let's focus onto this new circle. It is a hard shift to the southeast, and teams are already set up. LMV holding a huge split, really taking advantage of that hard shift for themselves, creating a huge buffer zone. We talked about it time and time again, the effectiveness of splits, and this time, in that specific situation, all the teams coming in from the north and the west will run into each other because LMV is going to make sure they don't press any further, making it much easier for LMV to close out the game. We'll see how the game does end up turning out, though, because we still got quite a bit left. We're only on the 4th phase. Eastern Stars holding the edge of that northern side. Bravis trying to rotate in and getting immediately pieced up by Lemniscate.
What I liked about Eastern Stars is on the previous shift, they had one person kind of holding an anchor point down on the south side of the road, and 2 were pushing a little bit more up on the northern side of the road where they got the kill onto the Familia. The second the circle shifted, they both went across and they were able to join back up as a 3-person team. Game Lord, off the back of getting the 2 kills onto Big, they're looking for more in the hands of the Familia. Of course, doing what they can to contend their top spot in the top spot. The overall standings, taking down La Familia. The Italian side would definitely be positive for that. Without Red Moon playing today, La Familia, they need to grab as many points as they can.
Familia, just as you say that, another member goes down to Game Lord. Game Lord playing very aggressive here. They realize they're on the edge of zone. May as well take the elim points because there's no risk of them losing positioning, right? No real risk of a third party. Circle shifts once again. It's not too far away from them. It centers up quite nicely. LMV, Eastern Stars, and YMCA are in the zone, but Ketu's actually knocked and gets flushed right there at the center of the circle.
I think that's a little bit of a classic too deep, too early based on the circle shift.
Mm-hmm.
Prices paid as La Familia do get the revive onto Clayboy, so still 2 players up.
Rex not in the zone anymore with that shift, having to contend with the uncanny Salazar.
I like Uncandy. I actually think that should be their name now.
Salazar with that grenade trying to readjust, and it looks like they've lost a lot of their vehicles. Does Rex have one for himself to use? He does. So Rex is gonna instead. Oh, I mean that's not where you want to drive to.
Yeah, they're kind of being pinched by 2 teams, whether it's Uncanny or not exactly sure who else is shooting at them from a distance. That allows Uncanny just kind of wrap around on towards the other side of the hill. They're still nowhere near the circle, but it allows them to avoid Rexpect and focus a little bit on YMCA.
Mm-hmm. Getting that knock on to Rexpect too was big.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. They were able to push on that, and the reposition has allowed them to continue the pressure. I like the 2-1 split coming out from Game Lord as well, as we're in the 24-minute mark of the game. The blue zone going to start closing in. Rexpect are being pushed in. Uncanny has 2 players knocked. It doesn't quite work out on that push, and Salazar, along with BK, able to stay alive. Uncanny, maybe they should have full sent it as a team. I was even surprised they pulled that off.
Yeah, I get the idea. You have the Overwatch, you have the suppression, but if you're using that Overwatch for the push needs to stop and be on the side of where your cover is. They pushed around to the other end where Hidakori couldn't really help out, and they just put their backs to that shack and didn't have to worry about this player at all.
I also think the fact they're not in the circle means that if they're going to go for a push, it should be as a full squad because you maximize the speed in which you win the fight. If they were in the circle, I maybe would have understood that a little bit more. Now, Hidakori, it's his last first day. The phase 5, phase 6 starts to chunk up. He can't get it off. That's a bit of a mistake by Uncanny. Hate to see it.
Definitely. Chasmot Gaming right here with 3 up, very close to the next circle. The circle kind of just shifts to a spot where no one can really play. Not yet, anyways. A lot of teams on the edge first have to clear out their sides before going any deeper. YMCA, Larix does go down to that play zone, will not be able to get revived. So YMCA down to 2. Game Lord still in mix with 3. 1 member of La Familia still up alive, and really nice shots by YMCA tops right there onto the Luminous Gate team.
Nobody's really in the circle bar a couple of the YMCA players on the very western edge. LB now need to start to really do some work. They have to carve their way into the southern edge of the circle. Game Lord, they hold on to the northern edge where they have the 2 remaining players of La Familia and Chasmac in their sights. Could be a bit of a French Revolution though, as Chasmac can help Game Lord inadvertently getting the kills onto the members of La Familia. Evil Boy Clay, they both go down, and it was indeed 1 apiece for both Chasmac and Game Lord.
That's Chasmac right there with only 2 left. LMV looking really strong with 4 players. LMV most likely to take this game. I talked about it earlier. Them holding that split on that hard shift really worked out for them. They managed to pressure a lot of teams into each other. Notice how the south side of the zone completely open, no congestion. They get that whole side for themselves while all the other teams are pressed into one another. And with that circle shift, well, LMV get the only last remaining compound in the news. Oh wait, there's not even compound there. It's just a giant ridge, which makes it even better for them.
Yes, it does, but I would argue it kind of doesn't, because now their position in the circle is focused, right? Going to be focused by pretty much every other team. The best thing they can hope for is not only are they able to be proactive and get kills, but the other teams around them take each other out. In my eyes, their biggest threat is Game Lord. That should be the primary focus. Have a bit of a 3-1 spread as much as possible. Even send one outside of the circle, I would argue, if it allows you to get the angle onto the YMCA players. YMCA Eastern Stars, 2-1 apiece. They're probably going to wait until the last second. Victor, with the shots, gets a knock on the hit on.
That might be the push because Game Lord is not in the zone, and they know the only spot in zone that's safe is where LMV is playing. Are they going to decide to push off it? They think otherwise. That one knock is not enough. I can't fault Game Lord either because they're down to 3 players. The pushing power is not as strong. Eastern Stars looking to try and get an angle, but LMV is safe for now at those ridges, like I said earlier. And yeah, LMV is the focus of all the teams. But luckily for them, LMV pressured teams enough that they were forced to fight each other down to scraps. We have a 2-man, a 1-man, another 2-man pushing in on the side of LMV, making it easy pickings for LMV. They have no worry at all, even if all the teams press in together at the same time, because they're just fighting each other.
Indeed, indeed. And that's the best that LMV could have asked for. Hit Dan, knock onto Narvello. Shots by Perks. That's going to be the end of Chazmak. 3 teams left up. YMCA top EC. Able to heal up. And this is back-to-back good results for YMCA. They got the win in the first game. They're going to get second in the second game. However, LMV, big. They got 12 eliminations, German representatives. LMV, the other German representatives. A big game 2 for Germany.
Game 2 has Germany written all over it, but of course YMCA another consistent finish, and to have a med strat ready on Miramar towards the end game, that is not something you typically see or plan for, so very good adaptation for Tops right there, even taking a few shots just because he can, but I love how he takes those few shots and will not give the point over. So just a little love tap on the shoulder, but that is LMV coming in huge, great split control, great teamwork, great use of the terrain and map knowledge. And that was a very dominant chicken dinner. They were under like barely any pressure at all. Besides that one knock by Game Lord,
Yes.
which they did not push off of, which I still can't really fault them too hard, right? Maybe they realized, yeah, if they pushed really hard right there, they could go out in 5th place. So they got their placement points by staying a bit alive a bit longer, Imperium.
Yeah, for sure. You're dead right. I can't fault Game Lord for not really pushing on that. Because you're just not guaranteed, and there's that level, I don't want to call it fear, but just awareness that nothing is guaranteed in that stage of the game. One ironically or coincidental thing that really benefited LMV, and it does also genuinely put a bit of an asterisk on their win, is the fact that their German teammates Big did hoover up a lot of the early game, right? 12 eliminations in the first couple of circles compared to like a normal competitive game. We were down to 35, 37 players at the 15, 16 minute mark. That's very unusual for a Miramar game. So it does make me think, well, what if Big hadn't have gotten so many points? What if there was an extra 2 to 3 teams in those later circles? Would it have been a little bit harder for LMV? I know it's a question that can't be answered, but it is still something to kind of low-key think about in the back of your mind. The amount of eliminations LMV got, low-key shuts that down. I'm just a devil's advocate kind of person, so we'll still think about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, given the way the circles shifted, right, just to touch a little bit more on it, I think LMV, if anything, would have had an easier time. The circles hard shifted to the southeast.
True.
You remember that one hard shift all the way down to the southeast where we saw LMV use a 1-1-1 split. All the teams that were taken down by Big were coming in from the northern side. So if there were more teams alive on the northern side, that just means they're going to be more busy fighting one another. But, you know, that's just my theory of it all. Either way, Big put on a show for us. LMV, clean executions, clean splits. That's how you take advantage of, you know, getting favorable circles while maintaining a high amount of eliminations.
And it was good, just before we go to break, it was a good return to form for both the German and the French communities, because Chazmak and Game Lord also got into the top 4, top 5. So it remains to be seen if they can continue it. We're going to go for a break. The highlights will show up afterwards, the standings, and then game number 3 in Sandhawk. Don't go away. Stay where you are. See you in a bit. Halfway through the day here, in the 5th day of the PUBG Mobile Europe tournament. Self-Imperium, the fantastic Zute. We're bringing it all right to your faces. A hell of a game in Miramar, my friend.
Hell of a game. Hell of a back-to-back game. I mean, the story from game 1, Glor stepping up out of nowhere, outscoring what they've done in the past 12 days, and then Big with their big return. I think that's the most aggressive and successful we've seen Big, all week long, and on the map like Miramar nonetheless. That was beautiful to see. A Mazzaro, oh man, to the moon. That guy was on the moon with those plays.
Yeah, he's just such a. I regard him as a firecracker of a player with just how much he can just pop off, kind of thing. So indeed, it was a very strong game from Big in Miramar, and of course won by their German teammates, LMV, as we'll show up the match rankings and give you guys a taste of what we saw. But the team that I really want to highlight is YMCA.
Okay.
20 points in game 1, 15 points in game 2. Started the broadcast, I said there's no mega stars. Currently the highest point scoring team in the lobby with 159 out of the Nordic regions. I think 213 in total. YMCA have filled those shoes big time. And I mean big time. I would arguably as of right now, after 2 games, better than mega stars.
I think, YMCA, I think we've seen this in previous days too, where there's only one representative from a region and they just start stepping up.
Yes.
They start doing well, but not like YMCA. I think YMCA a back-to-back, like strong finish, and that med strat towards the end on Miramar, definitely not something you planned for, but they had the adaptability, the wherewithal to maybe at some point realize, hey, let's stack up on these meds. We're not making it into this zone. But Game Lord and Chasmok as well on your screen, 15 and 13 for their community. Yes. Rex, Beck, and Bravis in 7th and 8th right next to each other. 10-point total, maybe not the highest total, but we're seeing a camaraderie kind of start happening where these teams try to keep up with each other, and that's really good to see.
Yeah, out of the top 8, 6 are all from 3 different communities. That's amazing. That's really good to see. It wasn't the most sparkling of performance from Eastern Stars. 8 points is 8 points. They'll take it. But LMV and Big together, they got 40 points for Germany in that one game alone. That's gonna very much help them in the overall rankings. The 100 getting 5 points, the Familia getting 4. It's a little bit unfortunate. However, 3 teams down in the bottom, we kind of have to highlight them because they were victims of Big. That's Showdown, Glor, and 4 Romanian men.
4 Romanian men as well. Yeah, so it was Showdown, Glor, 4 Romanian men, and then one other team, the 100, right? The 100. The 100 at least managed to get 5 points in there before they met their demise. So even though the 100 didn't do too well, hey, you went against Big, and some of the other teams that went against Big have 0 points. So, I mean, still, Big. Can they keep this up? I want to see, Sandhawk. Sandhawk is the map that we're going to be playing next, and it is a map that's all about aggression. But if my memory, is correct, we don't see Big, pop off too hard on Sandhawk. Maybe it's because of the risk of those third parties. I mean, we saw them get third party twice on Miramar, but with those ridges, it's much easier to work with. On Sandhawk, when you get third partied, it's probably the worst map to get third partied on.
That's true. That's true. I'm just doing a little bit of rough calculation, though, in terms of the overall standings, because I love to speculate.
Okay.
Big and LMV, Germany, they got 40 points so far in the 2 games, because game 1, unfortunately, 0 points for both teams. Game Lord and Chasmok, between the first 2 games, they got 39 points. If you look at the overall rankings, they were only 30 plus points, give or take, as in Germany was 32 points behind Italy. Now, Italy, La Familia have gotten themselves a total of 9 points in 2 games. But my point is, that gap has frozen between Germany, France, and Italy.
So you're telling me that once again, we're neck and neck, just literally like maybe even single digit point differences from one another. I mean, you love to see
I
that.
think so, yes.
It's so the top three, top four is so competitive right now. And it's not just, individual teams being competitive with each other.
Yes.
It's the communities. Each community has
I
two
know.
teams representing them. And it's almost like it was planned this way, right? Like to have
Yep.
the balance of these communities. So definitely great to see. It's not just one region dominate or two
No.
regions. It's actually four that are neck
Exactly.
neck, maybe even five right now with the Nordic countries doing
I
so
want to
well.
say 5. Yes, I need to. Yes, 100% because YMCA have gotten themselves 35 points. I'd say they've overtaken Romania on 4 after that second game. Unfortunately, it's only unfortunately for them that both kind of, Germany and France have gotten the amount of points they've gotten. Otherwise, it would be that kind of even closer for community race. But indeed, 5 teams are in there, top 5. Spain, that gap has widened, but again, there's still minimum one more week to go, 2 more weeks to go, so anything can happen. Just when we're coming towards the tail end of this first week and we are able to kind of evaluate things a little bit more, it's just so good to see the communities so close together.
Yeah, so talking about so close together, Sandhawk is definitely a map where you really press teams close together. Not much long distance sightlines, not much, hillsides to be able to be held. This is the map where people get super uncomfortable with each other, with guns blazing, and also, of course, the med strat. So I want to see which team comes up with a med strat this time around. We've seen, just one team at most on Sandhawk so each day. I want to start seeing a few more teams, not because I like the med strat, but just because I want to see teams try to optimize their points as much as possible more often.
It's a kind of thing where, and I suppose again we go back to the PMDC. It's the meta, and as much as I commend the fact that we're not seeing as many teams pull it off, I'm also looking at it and kind of going, well, you're missing out on a free opportunity. At the end of the day, points mean prizes. That's what all these teams are aiming for. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? So yeah, you're dead right. I'm with you in that one. We're into Sandhawk together. The plane path, not too bad. I know it's rare that we need to talk about the plane path in Sandhawk because the map is so small, but it kind of complements the fact that overall today we've had decent plane paths.
The pattern does continue, and I do believe each time on Sandhawk we have seen a hot drop fight in Camp Bravo. I can't recall which 2 teams it was, but it does look like there will be a fight in Camp Bravo as Showdown and the 100 that will be getting into a fight potentially over there. Boot Camp
UK teams
left completely open, and yeah, the 2 UK teams definitely gives me the echoes of there can only be one right now.
They'll be fighting over a cup of tea and a cucumber sandwich, as well as a crumpet with jam on it. Just trying to hit as many English stereotypes as possible. Suppose it's the UK, so you can also highlight haggis, highlight the Welsh mountains if I want to, highlight Northern Ireland, if I want to. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if any team really engages on each other, if they do respect the fact that they have either side. The one thing that I suppose both teams need to consider, if they were a little bit aware of it, is the fact that Lemniscate have dropped to that northern side of Bravo, and they could punish the team if they choose to disengage.
La Familia actually also getting in a fight with the 4 Romanian men, and Ruins not getting the better end of that as they are down 2 players already. And look at the way 4 Romanian are running around like maniacs right now, trying to hunt down the last 2 players. The La Familia doing a 3-1 split. Their 3-man split in the Ruins definitely not working out. Ooh, Zen starts taking some shots and instantly gets taken down. No helmet, no vest. Just super vulnerable to any bullets coming his way. Now, Clay's the last one up. He made his presence known already. He's got to start running because it's a 1v4 situation. I don't know if he can even get out of this one. And on the other side of things, Showdown Gaming and the 100 starting their fight. The 100 getting one player knocked in that kill feed. Golden and Game Lords also fighting. A lot of fights going all around on Sandhawk.
Wait, this is Sandhawk. Sandhawk, what do you expect? You know, fights are plenty in the early parts of the game. Showdown.
Wait, Lemniscape actually third-partied. Lemniscape got a kill confirmed on the 100, yeah.
Ah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. The 100 looked to, I think, disengage overall. Or I don't know if it was a full disengage or if they engaged and got themselves in a position being caught out. But indeed, Lemniscape have been able to grab an opportunistic kill onto the members of 100. This is the Game Lord Golden Esports fight. Portugal against France right now being won by the French side, the Game Lord. Gotten 2 knocks initially. Marlowski behind a rock. Potentially going to get the revive off. Narvello doesn't know exactly where he wants to go. Spicy was taken down, so Game Lord don't have the full squad available to really push to this fight for the time being.
Yeah, and they are kind of surrounded, or they're surrounding Golden, but Golden at the same time kind of have them surrounded in a sense too. So he's just trying to readjust to figure out which side he should focus on. A nice little jump nade almost does take down Faria. Faria's got a grenade in his hand as well. And Marlowe, or
Beautiful.
Ooh, wow.
Beautiful by Robs. Narvello was there with the support. The communication was probably given over to Robs to say, hey, they're still there. Cook up another one. You'll be able to connect. But Robs, you gotta be careful. You're not called out. Marcio, Marlowski, the double M, the M&M, you might want to say. Crispy Shell, soft center. Let's see if they have the hard outside to get the win against the members of Game Lord.
Looking a little bit soft.
Yeah, look a little bit soft, all right.
And Game Lord, I love this duo teamwork out of Robs and Larvo. I'm not sure. Narvello. The teamwork between Robs and Narvello, they're essentially 2v4ing this team. They isolated 2 members, did a clean 2v2 with Robs throwing the grenades and Narvello with the pressure. And now they're doing another 2v2 and looking so dominant as well. No chance for the side of Golden.
Like, Rob's full-on ran rings around the members of Golden Esports. That was like a lesson on just how to be that kind of 1.5 step ahead of your opponent. And you're dead right. The duo play between Narvello and Robs was really crispy. Like, that was poetic, in my opinion. So great to see from Game Lord. Don't really expect anything less from them, but it's still nice to see Bravas losing a player. Lore seems like they found an elimination to kick off this game number 3. They did unfortunately soften the game 1 result with a game 2, I think 0-pointer or 1-pointer, which is a shame. So they need to try and recover it. Lemniscape try and recover more eliminations at the hands of the 100.
New 100. Oh, he spots out Will for even if just a second. This is a very long distance shot. I believe also his teammates took shots, or did he just take shots and almost getting down Will? And Will does go down to Freezy, who's at a way different angle, way on top of the hill further up. And the 100 just getting sandwiched by Lemniscape and Showdown, I believe. So that is the 100 taken out. And oh, yeah, the first circle. I just realized we didn't even know where the first circle was because there was so much fighting. But here we are, the center of the zone being Painan. We have LMV hovering in Painan right now, locking down that area. And if you recall the other day, Painan teams have been just starting to just lock it down and not even rotate out of Painan because it controls a good amount all around them.
Yeah, you made that point about Painan and the strength of actually holding it down. Jazmac, a rotation. Yes.
This one
Let's go.
I like this
really?
rotation.
This
one makes more sense.
No, I don't think it does. I
Why?
don't think it does.
Okay.
The reason why is because if you look back on all the days, you've always had a minimum of 2 teams dropping on the eastern side of the map. A minimum of 2 teams. In this case, it was actually 4, but we've lost 1.
Mm-hmm.
The western side would have been, in my opinion, a much cleaner rotation because you've only ever had really a maximum, and I mean a maximum of 2 teams, and even then, they haven't really gone to the like coastal lines such as Tambang. It's always been like ruins / a little bit of Sami and Nakam. So yeah, I personally don't like it based on where the teams have been dropping.
So you don't like it because they went east instead of west, but you like
Yes,
the rotation in general.
I always like.
Given the zone,
I
right?
always
It's a
like the
hard
rotation.
southern zone. They're a team that was hard at north, so they don't want to trek through from the north side because they will be naturally
Yes,
congested. So yeah, I like that. As far as the east and west argument goes, you are right with the fact that there are more eastern
but you
teams.
disagree.
No, I agree with that. But
Okay.
also the circle though has more of the west,
Hmm.
shore side in
Okay.
play, which just kind of means there's a more natural potential possibility for teams to be on the shore side and they can
Fair.
spot out that boat. Whereas on the eastern side, none of it is in zone, and there's a chance that teams could just be looking to rotate on
Yes.
in.
Okay.
It goes both
Yep.
ways, right? But the
That's a great
rotation itself,
perspective.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a great perspective you bring up. Bang on. YMCA, they have a great spread around Quarry. I think it's important if you're going to hold down to this compound at Quarry that you don't have the full squad there. You need to have at least one player kind of pulled out to grab a bit of information because it can be a little bit of a blanket compound where you think you're safe, you think you're secure. Next thing you know, you're getting shot out as you move out. So well positioned by YMCA.
Rex right now looting in the southwest area of the map. I do believe this was a team that kind of goes for that med strat because they do a weird split on the southwestern main island, and then you naturally see them run off foot and shift further to the south side of Sami, where they continue to keep looting. Now, if you take a look at the southwest side of the map, you rarely ever see this on your screen during a competitive match because circles rarely ever go there. But look at how many buildings there are on the southwest. There's actually an insane amount of loot over there. Teams just don't usually favor it or start there because the circle almost never ends up on the southwest of the map.
This is where your point around Chasmac going on the east kind of complements phase 2 has shifted down to the southwest. It's good in terms of the teams now have a much bigger sign of the fact that the circle is going to end predominantly in that southwest island. Still a good chunk of mainland in play. Seeing Galore going for a big rotation across the bridge. On your minimap screen, Uncanny taking the shots on towards the members of... Who's that? EST, Eastern Stars. Well, LMV, this is where this is where my dislike of Painan comes into play. This is where my dislike of Painan comes into play. I'll definitely agree with you, but now 4 Romania men technically have LMV strangled. At least for the time being.
For the time being. The strategy behind the Painan is that there could be another team that takes up that hillside, but teams are more likely to fight for that hillside, like other teams rotating in, right? Versus trying to run into Painan. Like you
I know.
try and rotate through Painan and you get shot at from Painan, there's those huge openings where teams will be so hesitant to cross. Whereas on the hillside, yeah, a team can take the hillside, but other teams are more comfortable fighting from hilltop to hilltop than fighting into Painan. And then you could third party from long distance. You could make a spearhead, so to say, and time your third party when you do have to leave Painan. I've seen it happen here and there. Works out relatively successfully for the Painan team, but of course, it's not a guarantee.
Only 2 things in life are guaranteed: death and taxes. Uncanny looking to make a little bit of a guarantee that they do get a squad up onto Glore and pick up a extra elimination points. Hoping knocking Prek is good. However, he has been revived back up to life Don't know what and Pnatic is doing with that rotation. Maybe he's looking for a reposition. It could work out, but it's taken quite a long time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to do something. I actually really like this. Instead of having four players hold up in the building, he's trying to lock down their southern angle side. He doesn't want to play the north either, because if you keep in mind, the circle has shifted from north to south, meaning there's a higher chance of northern teams rotating down south. So he's going to readjust to the south side to hold that off angle support line. So it is taking a little bit while. He is running on foot, of course. But nice adjustment out of the Glor team. It looks like a very mature, sound play out of the Glor team.
I suppose I bring up the time constraint, especially so in Sanhok, because just it moves in so much quicker, and they are threat of being stabbed in the back by YMCA as an example. But you can see they're moving up. They're looking to be proactive. So for Romanian men, 3-1 split on top of the South Pineland Hill is absolutely fantastic. Big have made their way into the Southwest Island. Chasmac's rotation, or botation as I like to call it, has worked out, and they even swam across to land on the Ban region. Unfortunately, the next phase goes up north. Mainland is still inside.
Glor continuing the fight. They do get a confirmation onto the Uncanny, making it a 4v3. So that adjustment really good. Instead of just being holed up and playing defensive, they went for that off angle. They were proactive, and they took the fight to Uncanny. Now Uncanny actually lost 2 members to Glor. This Glor team looking like a completely different team. Yeah, like, you tell me this team averaged 2 points per game for 12 games, and now they're, instead of being defensive, they're being proactive. This is like a completely different team. Like, just the mindset, the style that they're playing is not a team that I would think would ever be averaging 2 points a game for so long.
Exactly. And that's where the mentality of PUBG Mobile and the psychology around your confidence and you as a player really comes into it, right? Because one win is kind of all it takes for you to have a little bit of a cloud lifted over your head and be like, oh, wait, I have the skill. Another example is YMCA. Look at that. They're kind of scaling back against the members of Lemon Skate. Now, Lemon Skate aren't, the strongest, most skilled team, but at the end of the day, YMCA technically were under a little bit more pressure. Scale back, turn around, and they get knocked into Freezy. Instantly, that space, they continue to disengage. That's clever play from YMCA.
I don't think people talk about it enough, but getting knocks creates spacing to do other things, not only just to take a fight with a team, right? We see a lot of teams sometimes in previous years where they're trying to leave or disengage the fight, and they full commit to it, and it ends up backstabbing them. Instead, you want to half engage in the fight, but not a full committal if escaping is your original plan. So I really like that. They get that knock, and then they take advantage of it and start moving. Chasma Gaming creeping up really close to the Glor team. Lets off some silenced UMP shots, so Glor is aware. You see instantly those players turn back around and try to secure their flanks.
Why are Chasmac so split? That's a question, right? There's no point in taking shots if your teammate aren't really there to back you up. You only really bring more attention your way. I get there could have been a bit of a potential bait, but in my eyes, the split from Chasmac just isn't really the right move in terms of really controlling your position inside the circle. Glor, they continue to stay structured. They get 3rd elimination. Looking good on the southeastern edge of the circle. Continually impressed right now as teams around them starting to get closer.
Glor is kind of caught here on the edge as multiple teams start pushing in. We're going into the next circle shift, and I don't want to say I told you so because it's completely RNG, but the team that stays in Painan, I told you so.
Well, a question for you, Zute. Should they stay as this 4-person rotation? Should they have 3-1? What would be if you were LMV, what would you do with this circle shift?
It would be...
Is it too late?
I wouldn't say it's too late, but with how fast 4 Romanian men with their car rotation, they just drove straight into Painan. I think they should start grouping up now. Yeah, like the split is fine, but I don't think they're holding it correctly because it should be one player on each edge side to slow down any teams from getting that
Yeah.
close. But everybody's already super close to the Painan area.
Yeah, great quick reaction from 4 Romanian men. I don't think it's something that LMV would have necessarily have expected. Gotta expect the unexpected though in the world of PUBG Mobile. For now, Showdown Gaming trying to carve a bit of a space in the edge of the circle. Naz opting not to really heal for the time being, using the plays around him and the fact that he has some good teamwork to come on through and a drive-by knockdown. Flat as a pancake. Galore. I believe that's them eliminated. Maybe one player left alive for them. 12 teams, 40 players remain.
I was so focused on his movement back and forth as he was about to engage in a close range fight, and then on the off side of the screen, a car pulls up, honks the horn, and well, he just got run over. So uncanny, down to 1. Pop pushing up onto the Eastern Stars. He got 1 knock, throws a grenade into Bazi's building. Not much he can do though as he's getting shot from another team, the third party, Showdown Gaming. Tries to open the door, gets in. He's safe for now, but no team is in zone over there. And Big finally being shown on camera. Big has been really quite, like I said, Big, you know, on Sandhawk is a little bit different. So good to see they're still up, they're still alive. They got 4, and well, the fights are having to break out now as the circle's forcing all these teams closer together.
Lovely molly thrown out by Mihi. Understated utility, I feel. Not really used in the best way at times. In those small buildings of Sandhawk, it's much more effective. Mihi moves around, does get knocked. However, Revive should be able to lay it out. Time's ticking, phase 4 blue zone's closing in. It doesn't become easier to deal with, it only becomes harder. The rest of the big side are now going to try and push their way in and eliminate the French side of Chazmac. Not only would that be good for their Sandhawk game, but it'd be even better for the overall standing. Shadowen still alive in the blue. 13 first aids. The heal strat, it's going to be in the hands of Chazmac.
Trays in with that grenade after getting a big knock onto Swab. He cooks it, he tosses it over. That could connect. It might fall up. Oh, Massaro actually goes down to 1 HP. Follow up grenade. This one could be it. And he got the full wipe.
Trazen with the 3-piece with the nades. Clutch it up against Big Germany. You're out of here. Now it's just LMV left alive. They're able to gather their bones. Still alive. Talon takes a bit of damage. YMCA have made their way to the eastern edge. I'm all fired up by that Chazmac play.
Painan is very congested right now. The rent here is extremely cheap, it seems, as there's so many players here flocking in here. Must be something on sale, but of course LMV, they're mad. This was their city to begin with, and I love what they're doing here. They're isolating one corner of Painan, and they're working together, pushing together. They already got 2 knocks onto YMCA. YMCA looks like they will be evicted from their corner spot of Painan. This is LMV's territory now. They gotta readjust to find another position to play in. But of course, Game Lords out in the distance, taking some free shots onto YMCA and getting another knock onto the team, and Tops is the last one up.
You see in the mini map, player from Rexpec going for a heal strat. So at least 2 teams going for a heal strat in this game. Trazen does go down, but not without the glory of eliminating Big along the way. The circle shifts to the north. LMV made the right call by going across to the northern side of Painan. 4 Romanian men. Quick reactions in the previous phase are going to have even quicker reactions. And a very tough task if they're going to stay alive, because the south side, just a tickle of Painan inside the circle.
How's 4 Romanian men going to navigate this? Crossing that bridge at this point with a full team of Lemonscape, with a full team of LMV, all keeping watch, it's going to be extremely difficult. 4 Romanian men, those 7 eliminations already. So there is something to be happy about, even if they were to get eliminated here on this rotation. Yeah, so they're going to make use of the smoke utility, clearing rooms one by one. Blue zone is closing already. I get they're trying to clear out their flanks. but time is ticking. This blue zone hurts a lot for Romanian men. Get a finish onto Nacho, so they clear out one member of Rex. There's still a snake alive. And Lemniscate are actually more focused on the northern side, which I can't fault them because the northern team does have to also push into Painan. That being Game Wars. Robs with the drop shot entering
Robs,
in.
once again.
Beautiful 1v1 right there.
Once again, Robs clutches up. This is a player in the PMPL full split that really took his time to feel the groove and feel the moment. It was all about Victor. It was all about Narvello, and then Rob showed us what he had to play, what he had to offer, and he's shown it once again. A lovely roof position by LMV. That nade is going to clean up. The last player, Rex Spec Goat, he goes down. Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? LMV goes, yes sir, yes sir. One nade full for Romanian men. They're going to have to go across the bridge, across the water, into the northern side of the Painan buildings. Lemniscate did lose Versace. 3 players that are left. Freeze, SKKK7, and Shesh. They do have Game Lord behind them. That's a tough task to deal with.
I'm surprised Game Lord made it this far down into Painan, running down the hillside. Begs to ask, what was Lemniscate doing there? But the circle is slowly starting to close again. This can be the end of 4 Romanian men, I imagine. 4 members up of LMV. 4 or 3 up for Lemniscate and LMV. They're going to use that smoke path and destroy the team of Lemniscate because they know that's their biggest threat. They keep some players off in the back angle to get those easy finishes onto the 4 Romanian men. 4 Romanian, though, Redox has something else to say and gets a knock and a thirst and makes it into the building.
This is a 4-way dance inside Painan. We've had such good games so far. An Everest finish, an interesting Miramar game that was dominated by the big early eliminations, and now in Sanhok it's a Painan ending. The roof play comes back to haunt LMV as SKKK7 gets a kill onto Lou. Sorry, not Lou, it was Hidan. My apologies. Talon and Luda are left alive for LMV. Still another good result for the German side of LMV. Consistency looking good in the 5th day of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. First time in quite a while, I would say nearly forever, that we've seen a Greek side be this strong in the late stages of a game. Surrounded by a French team, surrounded by a German team, it's not going to be easy.
Oh, Game Lord with some nice parkour, hopping up onto the middle of the rooftop right there. Definitely catching one member of Lemniscate by surprise. 3v2v2 situation. Game Lord playing this so beautifully. Coming from the team that was not originally in Painan, so well done to them. Huge respect there. And we're coming down to, like, I think this is where the last zone is. It's going to end in this building.
7 players, 3 teams in phase 9. Painan buildings. Victor gets stopped. Freeze is going to go down as well. Frozen, as cold as ice. Shit, now the final player goes for the pre-fire shots, but the French Revolution comes out to play. Takes down Lemniscate. Now it's just the final player of LMV. Talon in his sights.
2v1.
1v2. Now
LMV with
LMV.
2.
You gotta pull it out of the back. Talon, it's your time to strike. Down the stairs he goes. The pre-fires with the UMP. All in this one building. The game will end between Game Lord and LMV. Would he go for the jump out the window? It could be a big brain move. Gotta use the third-person perspective. Stay proactive. Give absolutely no idea to Game Lord where he is in the top floor of the building. So a nade potentially being cooked up by Game Lord. Technically, this is a win for the French side. But do not take for granted what Talon can do. He has 1 first aid, and there you go. Novello takes out Talon. The grenade gets a job done for Game Lord.
What a beautiful grenade by Game Lord. Shame we couldn't see which angle he threw it in from, but you called it out. Game Lord still had 1 grenade left. They knew as the circle pinched in where that player could be. He could no longer be out on the roof. He could no longer be in the multiple little small rooms because the zone was choking all of it out. So I love that discipline. Wait for the surefire grenade rather than throwing it early if that was the only grenade they have left. Game Lord with a really good finish, and of course LMV. That's 3 games in a row. Where
No. First
no?
game they got 0 points.
Oh,
Sorry,
first game.
just yeah.
Okay,
But it is
okay.
two games
Two
strong
games.
results.
2 games in a row, LMV. Oh yeah, they had the chicken in the last game. That's what it was, and they almost got the chicken there. And LMV, hey, they were in Painan from the very beginning. They held that 4-man split. And you and I both were like, ooh, this is looking a little bit sketchy because a lot of teams pressed in really quickly and they didn't fend them off, from the beginning. But the adjustment was made beautifully and they secure a 2nd place finish.
I think it was just one of those things where, and I believe it's one aspect that specifically LMV not only improved on to the point where it got them to PMPL, but I even say since PMPL they've improved on, is not panicking, right?
Ooh,
Keeping your composure. So when you're in that situation where you might not have like the best position, or you might not be in the most optimal spots upon a circle shift, instead of panicking and kind of go, oh no, we need to move, it's that level of patience where they were able to kind of readjust, stay together, and another strong result came through. So yeah, and that's where the experience that Talon gained playing in PMPLs for Team Umbra, playing in PEC back a couple of years ago, it really helps kind of create that evolution, and LMV are showing it right here, right now. Another good Sandhawk game though. You tell you, like, really another good Sandhawk game.
A really good Sandhawk game. And of course, we got one match left, being Erangel, so don't go anywhere. We're going to go for a quick break, and there will be some highlights on your screen to recap all the chaos that was Sandhawk.
Day 5 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament continues. We are 3 games down and we've had wins coming out from Game Nord, LMV and the side of YMCA. But with one more game to go, the opportunity strikes. My name is Imperium, of course, continuing on with Zute. It's been an action-packed day.
Very action-packed day. Each game is quite different in the way it played out. We had some interesting zones, we had some interesting fights, but let's take a look at the match ranking here and just really see how hard Game Lord and LMV both popped off. And of course 4 Romanian men, gotta give them credit, as well as scoring 17, and also Lemniscate. That's actually 4 teams that scored quite a bunch of points on Sandhawk. Usually, you know, Sandhawk is not a map where, if, you know, it's a couple of teams that could do well, but this time around it's like around 4 teams within the double-digit range.
Yes, it's less of a Sanhok-esque game overall because of that drop-off. Game Lord were masterful in how they entered the Painan buildings. I would argue maybe Lemniscate weren't as focused as they should have been. However, I would argue that it made sense because you have less teams potentially entering from that northwestern side of Painan. It made sense that they didn't. It's just a perspective. I don't know what you think of that, but I still think it was masterful how Game Lord entered.
Yeah, no, I think it was. Don't get me wrong. Game Lord must have entered him quite beautifully, because that was not that was not an easy entry to make. But I have to say, Lemniscate, I feel like, dropped the ball. They were on that northwestern side, right? They held on the northwestern side. They had 2 options: gatekeep the 4 Romanian men, or gatekeep whatever's coming in from outside Painan. Now, if you're a team in Painan and there's a team coming in from the outside, you should have every advantage to your disposal to really shut that team down before they get in. And Lemniscate, don't get me wrong, they had a good performance here, but I can't help but feel, because they don't usually perform so well, that it kind of carried over into this game in terms of their technical knowledge and skill, meaning they did not play as optimally as they could have. Otherwise, we might have seen them close out the game instead of Game Lord.
Fair. Couldn't have said it better myself. Need to continue to highlight YMCA. 44 points in 3 games. Give you context on not only what is a good day from them in general, comparative to their games so far in the first 12 games, where they've got a total of 54 points. They're 10 behind in 3 games of their total. So a massive turnaround from YMCA. And once again, to remind you, they're the sole Nordic representatives in today's games. There's no mega power. So YMCA proudly flying the Nordic flag.
Yeah, Mega Power definitely cheering on YMCA, seeing their brethren. You know, this time YMCA sticking it out by themselves in this lobby, but doing quite well, doing better than they ever have. And now that we're like nearing, you know, like the break that's coming up and almost pretty much a halfway point, so to say, it's good to see YMCA finally stepping up and helping out the big power of Mega Power. Another team I want to look at real quick from that Sandhawk game is the 4 Romanian men. Now, 4 Romanian men usually overshadowed by the Eastern Stars counterpart, right? Eastern Stars, more experienced team, you know, typically, you know, doing better than the 4 Romanian men each time we see them on the match rankings. But 4 Romanian men really like that rotation into Painan, straight and decisive. They get a huge game this time around, and now it's 4 Romanian men stepping up as far as, you know, between Eastern Stars and them go.
Yeah, well pointed out in that regard. The battle, though, still continues with regards to Germany and France catching up to Italy. A massive benefit for both of those regions. La Familia, the sole Italian representative, 0 points in that 3rd game, unfortunately. Whereas France, they got 31 points together, and LMV got 25 points together.
Mhm.
So it's still so close. The race for the top continues. And with YMCA, although it wasn't kind of that double digits, however, across the 3 games, 44 points, they're keeping themselves in. I cannot wait to see what the overall standings are like after or coming into next week's forecast or at the end of the day.
Yeah, for everyone watching right now on YouTube, if you missed the beginning of the show, you can skip back to the very beginning where we do show the overalls coming into today. So a bit of a refresher for you guys, and just get a better idea of how close these communities are. So you can go ahead and do that, as we still have a little bit of time left before the last match of Erangel starts. And just as I say that, I think we're about to head right on in, Imperium.
Hey, we're getting ready. The players are probably, yeah, they're in the kind of spawn island. They're getting their bones together. They're warming up per se. To give you all a little bit of a context on how strong these teams have been performing coming into today's games, France as a community had an average point per game of 10. That's including both teams. So that point average for France has been amazing. Italy, not far behind with 9.61. So the top 2, very close. The reason why France is higher, yet Italy are ahead, is because, again, Italy played a couple more games than France coming into today's game. So, with one more game, that the average has somewhat been matched by Game Nord in today's games, and arguably a little bit of Chazmac involved. Here we go. The playing path for the last game is upon us.
Taking a look at the playing path once again. Very fair playing path. I think we've had good playing paths all 4 games today, and the zones have been pretty friendly. We did get a Mount Everest ending, but it wasn't like a hard shift up there. Teams had ample time to prepare for that potential scenario happening. And Miramar, very friendly circle as well. We did get kind of a hard shift down to the south. But overall, the circles have been good. The playing paths has been good. And the matches have been even better in terms of entertainment value.
Oh, yes, they have indeed. What will Phase 1 bring upon us? I wouldn't say no to Military Island. Finish again. That would definitely be satisfying way to end the day. I'm already pretty full, but as my parents would say when I was young, I've hollow legs, so there's always room for that little bit more, the extra little bit of dessert, the cherry on top of the cream, maybe covered in a couple of chocolate chips, whatever you want to say. I'm making myself hungry, Zute. I'm making myself hungry, man.
You and me both. I have not ate yet. Of course, I did kind of just wake up. Yeah, it's like I wake up around 8 a.m. to get ready for this, and what better way to start off
breakfast?
I had like a banana. That's about it. Okay. Yeah, not much time. I prioritize sleep over food. So, but waking up and being able to catch some games of PUBG Mobile is always, a good way to start off the morning. And to be honest, today has been quite more exciting than the other days. I mean, each day was a different story, was a different narrative, but the matches in of its own today was like in a league of itself.
Really has, and
wow,
it continues in this final game. Lovely spray from 4 Romanian men. All he did was dropped in the house, picked up a gun, took a shot. That's all you need. No helmet, no vest, no bag. It's an M4, the pocket full of dreams. Looks to try and confirm that kill onto Barry. Of course, we'll want to be careful because of the rest of Golden Esports are there. But at the end of the day, even if he goes down, he's still trading quite nicely. Nearly gets a second knock. I wonder, is he running out of bullets, Zute?
I think he just looted some, switches to the AK, so he's got an AK and M4 bullets to work with. You see how little loot he has. He was even forced to pick up the vest that he damaged, knocking the other player, but something is better than nothing. But his teammates are here. One of the teammates of the 4 Romanian... Wait, hold on, let me correct that. That is a 4-man team of the 4 Romanian men now here to back up Redox with the crossbow. Look at that. Look at what Redox is holding. Redox showed up with the
Ah,
crossbow.
nearly got it. Nearly got it. That would
That's
have been
how
nice.
that's how fast their teammates showed up to try and help. Literally, all he had was crossbow in hand, and he's like, "Don't worry, we're coming. We're on our way." The 4 Romanian men stand tall and strong together. I love to see that teamwork right there. Oh, wait a second though. They're leaving, but they did leave one player behind. I I'm guessing they thought Golden had completely, left the scene, left the area. They didn't realize Golden, made a little bit of a U-turn back up on top of the hill. Speaking about U-turn, now you see Redox, or not Redox, 4 Romanian men on the map making their U-turn back to the building. This is a little bit of a musical chair type scenario. Like, these teams need to loot, okay? Like, I get it. You guys are fighting. You guys got each other's backs. But these teams have not looted anything yet, and we're almost 5 minutes into the game.
Lemnis Skate. They dropped in Novo. Rexpect normally has gone there in the past, if I'm not mistaken. So we could have seen a slight adjustment in terms of drop spots from a couple of teams. We haven't really seen where the phase one has shown up for the time being. We are 5 minutes in. Phase one starting to close in. I'm also doing a couple of calculations in the background.
Mhm.
Zute, and so far, communities that have calculated have scored. Italy, only 9 points today.
Okay.
Germany, 65.
Oh,
France, 67.
wow. Keeping it very
Yeah.
close.
Yes. Just
Dang.
because I'd like to give a little bit of a speculative idea of what the overall standings are after the last game. I'm a curious cat. What can I say? But the phase one has popped up, and it's not too bad. It's a little bit similar to what the teams will be used to, more on that southwest side.
First circle, very, if I, for lack of a better word, very vanilla. Very, like,
Okay, fair.
just, the only interesting thing that could happen potentially, in my opinion, is like a zone ending in the chopstick area of Gatka.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no matter where the zone goes, I mean, granted, it could go shift up onto Mount Everest over and over again, but more than likely, we're going to see a very, typical zone ending on Erangel, which is good for these teams. It should, be very familiar for all these teams in terms of how to go about playing the situation. 7 minutes into the game, we see multiple teams rotating in. Now we have Chasmok rotating, YMCA, Rex Esports also rotating in, Big slowly making their way down from the northern side of Cerverni. Eastern Stars on the far east, well, they know they don't have really that big of a zone priority rotation, so they're going to take their time and loot up a little bit more.
La Familia's entry point from that military island towards the mainland. Do they do it now? Do they wait until phase two? Maybe send one player across? What would you recommend? Because I think, if they've been a bit aware from previous days, teams are rotating a little bit quicker.
Just a little bit quicker, but that bridge should be open for them, right? We haven't seen teams really do a counter strategy yet. Like, we don't see
Fair.
teams specifically target out another team based on drop spot. That does happen at the higher levels, like the further the tournament goes in. With this, we still have quite a few days left, so maybe teams are just still trying to play their own game, figure out their own thing, so to say. And Chasmok with a nice rotation, taking up a position pretty central in the zone. That's always good to see. And Chasmok gonna do some continual scouting, not just stopping at the first site of an open compound. Instead, you're gonna look for more, look for a better positioning. Game Lord, the winners of your last match, rotating out of the Yasnaya area. A little bit slower, but no problem there, as it is Erangel. And Showdown and Bravis getting into a fight in that kill feed right there. And one member of Bravis does go down. Super Mikhail gets knocked and confirmed. And another one. This fight is not looking good for Bravis at all.
No, Bravis. Now you see me, now you don't. Lou, the last player alive. It's on that Pachinki Hill, so it seems like they were maybe a little bit too late to rotate up the hill. I don't know exactly what their path lines were in Showdown. They batted them away just like that. Like swatting a fly away on a sunny day. Showdown showed them what they've got. And it's going to be more shots by Showdown. Like, honestly, normally I'd say Showdown could do with possibly a bigger spread across, particularly, but maybe them being so close together is part of why they were able to dominate Bravos upon that rotation.
Well, we didn't see how the fight exactly played out. If anything, I think it maybe Showdown just caught them by surprise, right? Bravos has a really strong position, a position that should be able defendable for longer than just how fast the fight lasted. So I think Bravos got caught with their pants down. YMCA over here with a smoking card due to Showdown laying some long-range M4 fires right there. And I think everybody's pretty much set up in the new zone. The next circle is about to come out very soon. So not much more movement, just some long-range shots, mainly just info gathering for most of these teams at this point.
YMCA, if they get one more decent 10, 15-point result in La Familia, go down early on, we could see Italy drop from 1st to 4th. Because right now, the way we look at it, Romania has scored 35 points in today's 3 games. The Nordic regions have scored 44. So already, Romania have dropped down a spot. Like I said, Italy getting another poor result. It could be them dropping from 1st to 4th.
Chazmok actually getting that long range knock and going aggressive. Okay. They had a really strong position at the tower earlier, but his last game of the day, it seems like teams just want to play aggro. They want to, they have an itch for, shooting their guns and getting some elim points. So 1 knock and a full push. 4 Romanian men, of course, already get the reset, but the timing of the push was fast enough that some of the 4 Romanian men are still caught off guard in their positions, and another opening for the Chazmok side. Chazmok looking like a completely different team.
GVV does have a good support angle, but those nades have been very strong. Azer steps out the side of the building on his own. You can't let that happen. You cannot let that happen at all. Pokus takes a little bit of health, a little bit of damage, should I say. Still 3 players alive, 3 each. It's not over yet. 4 Romanian men got a good result in the previous game in Sanhok, so their confidence is probably pretty high.
Ooh, look at that angle.
Shots being fired by Shadow. Yeah, very good. But across the side of the wall, 4 Romanian men trying to apply a little bit of pressure. Redox Spot is doing a great job so far. Could be able to catch a Shadow and oversteps his mark. How did he get away with that?
Where was the trade? And Redox having to fall back there. Okay, I get it. That's a decent fallback. They already have a player in an off-angle position to support it.
Bait them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to bait them.
But he didn't connect the shots. There we go. The trade finally happens. But 4 Romanian men on the back foot. Chazmok really pressing in. And there's that Overwatch angle coming in huge. You said that you want to bait them in, and I think Chazmok smelled weakness there and did get a little bit overextended on that push. It could have gone either way. I mean, it was very close, and Trazen now forced to leave the fight as he realizes he will be reset in a 1v3 situation with that supporting angle from the side of 4 Romanian men. Not much he could do there.
I appreciate and respect Chazmok's aggression in that fight, honestly, and it was some great kind of theory crafting with the nade pushes, etc. Just the execution wasn't there, and honestly, they got baited harder than I get baited by a burger. Simple as that. Simple as that. Phase 2 pops up, it centralizes quite nicely. Still Pachinki Hill in play. Gatka, Chop 6. This is a good phase 2.
Very good phase 2. Rex in the center of the map, just chilling at that compound. Very strong compound. 100, the 100. Getting into Philo landscape, coming in hard and fast. It looks like they just want to... It must be a last match of the day thing, Imperium. It seems like every last match of the day, we get unwarranted aggression, unwarranted violence, right? This area of the map right here, nowhere near a central priority circle, and they're just going straight in. And what an angle! Scott or KK actually winning that one with the UMP.
A scoped in UMP at that. Hold on to the stairwell of the building, providing great time for the rest of his Lemniscate teammates to drive on in. CZECH cooking up a nade. This is important that Lemniscate, off the back of a good 17-point game 3, continues to apply the pressure onto the 100. What is CZECH doing with that reposition? I don't think it's really the right call. Got a great knock, but nothing really done from it with the rest of the Lemniscate side. I know they lost Versace, but at the end of the day, last game of the day, lay down the law, put down the pressure, and now the whole of the 100 are going to push up the inside of the building, and now the angles that Lemniscate have, unless the classic bait comes through, I can't see them winning this out.
I mean, I love how SKK has been playing this. He stalled out for so long on his own, and the second the team pushed up, he readjusted to be in the support sidelines of his teammates. Yeah, really well done by SKK. I love his individual play and understanding of how to stall for time and still be aggressive and putting pressure on the team, even though he's caught out by himself. Now, even though the V100 has the man advantage, it's a 4v3 situation, all of their angles and sightlines are cut off, and in a sense, they are trapped inside, and grenades are raining in by the Lemniscate team.
How many knocks do you have to get Lemniscate to push this? There you go, finally. But the smokes are laid down, right? The cover with the smokes is hard, and Will gets a knock on the Freezy. S-Triple-K7, his back is sore, and he continues to get another knock. Turns around, takes a lot of damage. CZECH is there, Reznov is knocked with the molly. Daddy IGL turns around and is able to get another knock. CZECH is left on his own. The jump shot from Daddy clutches up. The 100 stay alive.
What a scrappy fight. Beautifully done by both teams, I honestly have to say. I know they were getting knocks on the 100 and they weren't committing to the full push, and I think that's why. I think teams actually should take a little bit more time. Traditionally, when we see those knocks, you know, we want to see them push. We want to see them take advantage of it. But honestly, Imperium, I think the difference is, and now that, you know, I think it's kind of slowed down, let's take a look at where the circle should. So we might go into a Pachinki finish. That's going to be really interesting. But one thing I've learned from watching PUBG Mobile competitive over the years is primarily the Chinese teams, the way they play aggressive, right? When they push a team to finish them out, they don't necessarily push the team. They just push the rate at which they clinch the team in tighter and tighter. If that, you know, makes sense, it's basically like you don't want to just push into the building off of that knock. You want to just put more and more pressure and make the enemy team try and panic and create more mistakes on their own due to the pressure you put on. Because if you push directly in, like, you know, Lemniscate did, that's what they're prepared for. The team is ready for the push. The team is ready for the defensive.
But here's the thing. I would disagree a little bit, because in that situation, the biggest reason why Lemniscate lost it is because the 100 had thrown 4 to 5 smokes down at the bottom of that building. So that meant that the entry point was a lot harder for Lemniscate to push. Whereas if they had pulled it off earlier when there was little to no smokes inside that building, it probably would have been more successful. But I digress. This game goes on with the circles shifting, centralizing around Pachinki. A couple of teams go for a bit of a Pachinki push, and it hurts them hard. On the outside, Big, together as a full squad, looking for the members of Game Lord. Germany v France, the threat continues on. The fight rages on between these two regions.
OMV already taking a nice position in Pachinki. This sewer line area just right outside of Pachinki, actually such a strong position. It doesn't look like it, but it is a very strong fallback position. OMV, though, down to 2 players. YMCA taking some long-range shots. Shazma Gaming, you saw in the background right there, engaging with Glore in an all-out compound fight. YMCA knows this too, as they take some looks over that direction. And this circle, even though we're only at phase 3. I think many of the teams realize we don't want to just go into Pachinki, so everybody's fighting for positioning outside of the Pachinki area. Because you mentioned it the other day, when you commit to a city zone this early on, it could really bite you in the butt.
To note about that kind of gutter strip that you talked with LMV, I think it's too early in the game to go there, because you see YMCA putting a lot of pressure on and quite a good few smokes being thrown out by LMV. I can imagine they only have a limited amount. I can't see them surviving. I have to wait and see. Of course, YMCA might get distracted. La Familia did end up winning a fight in their part of the map. The 100 are to the north of YMCA. To me, Game Lord and Big, ironically, are in kind of two of the safest areas of this phase 3 circle. I say safest, not necessarily the best.
Right. I think that's their game plan, though. Both teams very aggressive. Both teams are really strong at fighting. They want to stay around the edge, and when they take the fight, they want to make sure it's a committed fight in the next zone. If they take a fight now, who knows where the next circle might shift? So they're just biding their time. So I mean, that's the classic strategy of an edge team that's focused on fighting. When that circle shifts, then they take their fight because they know that position is in the next zone. Whereas many of the other teams, you know, they're playing more defensive, which nothing wrong at all with that, right? Taking up a nice position in the zone, hoping you get the circle, but even if you don't, they probably have some exit strategy. And the M16, really loving the shots out of this. Paraboy, one of the best M16 players. I think he really kind of put that gun on the map. And now you see why it is so strong. The circle has shifted to the north, does favor Game Lords, but Big as well, managing to take a church position outside of Pachinki.
Icy single-handedly picked apart the members of YMCA. Literally 3 individual knocks with that M16. Perks sends it in, gets knocked, hit on, last player alive. I low-key don't mind teams committing to Pachinki. I still look at it as a little bit of a desperation move, but I understand with the circle shift. The edge of the city in play, yeah, I can see it. Icy boy, though, just like that. YMCA, I'm not going to say it puts a massive dampener on their day result, but it is a little bit of an unfortunate end the way they've been picked apart, and Icy finishes off YMCA. Lovely individual play by Icy.
I see one-man armying right there, just as a solo, taking apart a team from distance and then clears it out, driving up close, just close range right in their face. Really well done by Icy. Trey's in here, last one up for Chasma Gaming, just holding the very southern edge side of Pachinki in that standalone building that's a little bit separated from the rest of the city. So he does have some spacing to work with. I wonder if he does have a vehicle that he has kept safe. On the heart of Pachinki, on the northern side of it, that is where the center of the circle is, we have the 4 Romanian men and Eastern Stars in somewhat of a scrappy engagement.
Eastern Stars, 4 Romanian men. Romania against Romania. Big have actually repositioned around to the other side, and it doesn't work out for them for the most part. Yes, it does in the end. Kapahala goes down. Doran gets a revive. A little bit of, I would argue, not miscommunication, but not really focus on one fight at a time means Eastern Stars kind of gets caught out.
Yeah, but how can you focus on one fight at a time in a chaos like this? I mean, take a look at Pachinki right now. It's like a bag of Skittles.
That's fair, man.
You got your
That is
bright
fair.
blue, your bright pink, you got your yellow, you got your orange, literally the colors of Skittles right there. And they're all bright and pretty appetizing. And what's even more appetizing is that circle shift, because we get some of Pachinki and then we get some of the open grounds to the northeast of Pachinki. Big, keep in mind, is still in play here. This team still has 4 members. I want to see what they can do in the late game with their 4 members. And Showdown with 4 on the northwest, Game Lord with 3 on the north, and V100 playing a nice edge position on that eastern side. Let's see what they can make use of that side of the circle, as they are the only teams over there.
That was a big rotation coming out from Showdown Gaming from the southern side of Pachinki all the way over to the west. Gotta give them credit for that. You can see in the minimap, Rexpect lose one of their players down to just a duo, but they're holding on inside of Pachinki. As the Skittles bag is slowly being whittled down, they're eaten, gobbled up by what is the last game of Day 5 in the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. La Familia, they've had a torrid day so far as the sole Italian representatives, but they are still going as a duo. One thing we need to think about, still 12 teams. Okay, make that 11 as numbers go down. Still 11 teams or 24 alive. That's going to be a little bit of a surprise for any of the teams that go out early now.
This late into the game, you think you'd be at least be top 10, but it's about to be 10 as, ooh, Perks with the really good grenade. Definitely knows where this Glory player is. Glory with the AK taking some shots, missing them right there. And, ooh, Perks with a nice quick peek. You know, almost didn't even see him peek out. That is another team eliminated. Now we are down to the top 10, soon to be top 9 as teams are crashing in. One of these teams will definitely not be surviving this crash. Showdown Gaming crashing in onto the edge side of the zone. They do find an open compound. They keep some of their vehicles safe in case the circle shifts off. And everybody's just kind of stacked on the south where they committed to Pachinki too early. Take a look at the rest of the map, right? So much open space. They could have just committed to a 4v4 on the north, northeast, the west, and they'd be fine. But if you committed to Pachinki, you're in a 4v... If you have 4 members alive even, you're in a 4v...
Oh my god!
18.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Zute. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yes, I see that circle
shift. It's just gone horribly away from Pachinki. I kind of feel bad for them at this stage of the game. Big still holding on as a trio. Team Showdown, I don't get why they committed inside the Pachinki. That's a little bit weird in my eyes. They suffer a casualty at the hands of it. Then they need to drive their way through the members of Big, who are not going to make it easy.
Big, the gatekeepers right now for most of the entirety of Pachinki. I like Big's position though. That house or that compound of Pachinki is a bit further away and isolated from the rest and has an easy rotation now. Good place to hold down. So Big definitely picking the prime real estate. As for all the other teams, we got 30 seconds until the blue either consumes them all or they're forced out into the open to take their fights, to make their last and final push. Perks and Hidan here, the last two of LMV, trying to find a way to work up the trench, but the mollies, the smokes, the grenades, definitely slowing them down. Showdown Gaming using their smokes to try and push into Big. That's going to be a tough one right there. Rex Esports using their smokes as well to try and make their exodus. And this is the mass exodus of Pachinki. Only maybe 2 of these teams will make it into the next zone, where Game Lord and D100 are just chilling right now.
And what day was it in which Game Lord came up and got the back-to-back chicken dinner in the 2 last games? We could be seeing the same thing right now as we're witnessing the members of Big do the showdown. What I predicted, which is to shut them down one by one, premix. Ayu's the last one alive. There's not really much he can do, but he stabs Big in the back, goes down fighting, and leaves Big with just 1 player up. Wasted, pulling off a bit of a heel strike, will get himself a 4th place for La Familia. 4 teams left, 7 players alive. Just like that, we went from like 11 teams down to 4, Zute, and this is pretty much a free win for Game Lord. I know the circle has shifted away, but they have 3 players up.
It's not necessarily a free win because the 100 has 2 and they just opened up a knock, and we saw Icy Boss. Icy Boss is popping off right now. It's a 2v2v1. Marva Low not gonna be able to get revived. And 100 Daddy, what a grenade from down distance. That he had no clear sight lines whatsoever, and he just felt that one. Spicy, he's got the buggy.
I just cast her curse? Did I just cast her curse? I think I might have cast her curse.
Pretty badly.
Spicy makes his way across, but one more nade. One more nade by the 100 is all it takes. They are cooking it up. Icy has one, but so does Beast. It's a 2-way dance. It's a menage a trois, ironically, between these 3 teams. Beast waiting it out. Wants to see the players whittle down a little bit more. Wants to see that kill feed pop up before he really makes a move. A revive by Spicy onto one of the Game Lord players will at least help to keep them alive. But Daddy gets a confirmation with another nade. Beast pops up and with the damage laid down. And Daddy drives down. He's gonna get knocked into thin air. Robs holding on. Icy popped off into YMCA. Now he's looking for the rest of the lobby. It's a 1v1v1. Spicy's in the smoke. Icy has to be very close.
1 HP.
He steps out of the smoke, but Amani drops it down. That's a win for Big. What the hell happened?
Wait, whose Molotov was that? Was that Big's Molotov?
I think that was Icy's on Molotov. I think. I'm not quite sure. It happened so quickly, but god damn.
All right, guys, that does it for the show. Everyone have a great break. I mean, what an ending! Wow. Okay, I was already gonna say, like, you know, I think I said earlier, Mount Everest was the best ending that we've had all tournament long, and that happened today. And just 3 games later, today of all days, what better way to you know, go into end of the week. We got a couple days break. But let's talk about the matchup. Like, Big getting the chicken dinner, I guess, right? And then, but V100. Okay, hold on. Let's rewind a little bit. V100, and they were down to 2, and you saw how they did not commit to Pachinki with those 2-man, and they just wrapped around the edges, worked the edge side, and they got into the very late game and almost won that game. Except for the self-immolation, you know, that was not the play, but not much he could do. The blue zone was closing. Yeah. He just finished the last player, and he was down to 1 HP. Even if he didn't run into the fire, I'm pretty sure the big player, the second he challenges him, right, just one bullet, scrape the elbow, scrape the toe, and Big would have still secured that win.
I think there was a little bit of a crossfire from Beast that put Icy down to very low health. I don't think that was a blue, and I don't think it was Spicy. If I'm thinking back, because Spicy was just prone down, unless a stray bullet from Spicy also connected. But I do think that was a little bit of an, you know, as it happens, third party from Beast. Can't hold anything against Icy. He clutched up against YMCA, picked him, not even clutch up, honestly, just made mincemeat out of YMCA. He was there with Daddy, nade after nade. It was a bit of a throw from Game Lord. Let's be honest. They had 3 players up. I kind of called them to win. And yeah, they threw it away. I would argue they would have been better off going directly into the direction of where Beast was, right? I know they wouldn't have been too sure, but I would argue that with the amount of shots that had been fired in that direction across the road between Big and Showdown, that area would have, you know, sometimes you can assume
at least one player or one team made it out, right?
You're again, it's just kind of covering one side, whereas because they went in between 100 and Big, it just made it a little bit tougher. That's in my opinion.
Yeah, I gotta agree. But of course, you know, the chaos of the games, the way it played out, all the teams play those 3 teams, the 100, Game Lord, the 100 with the rotations, Game Lord, you know, controlling the north, and Big did go into Pachinki, but they picked the best real estate position in Pachinki, right? So all 3 teams with a different game strategy all comes out to being quite a successful game. And so let's go into the break, and we could catch some of the highlights and maybe make a bit more sense of what happened in that late game. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, guys.
That's it. The final day of the week has been completed here in week 1 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Today's games, I think you can agree, Zute, were pretty damn incredible.
Oh yeah, the best games by far. I mean, highlight game 1, Mount Everest, all the way through. Highlight game 2, big, taking fights with 4 teams, just back to back to back to back, and winning all of them. Game 3, Painan ending of all places on Sandhawk, and of course game 4. I mean, we just watched the beauty, the game 4, best game of the entire tournament, right? And taking a look at the match rankings, V100. Lost out on that chicken dinner at the very end to that Molotov, but I'm really happy to see that they got the most points overall because they were putting in work with the elims.
Yeah, they initially won the fight against Lemniscate. We're left with 2 players, Icy and Daddy. Icy absolutely froze players around. The YMCA, a Nordic region team, you think they'd be used to a bit of cold, a bit of ice. Well, they weren't used to Icy, and then in the end, as a duo, they held onto that northeast side. Fortunately, couldn't get the chicken dinner, but big. A very good day for not only big individually, but I suppose the German region alone. I have points calculated, so I'll go through it. But Beast did a great job of getting the chicken dinner.
La Familia as well, ending the game off strong there, right? The only team representing their region for this match, or for today, and then Showdown, pretty decent, 11 points right there. Game Lord with 10. Overall, good games for many of the teams that needed the points, and then also for the teams that are just, trying to stay in the top 3 and, catch up or keep their heads above the other teams.
Yeah, and it's a little bit unfortunate for YMCA because I said during that last game that I didn't want that kind of downhill moment against Icy to put a dampener on their day, and I don't think it did in terms of how much they proved themselves, but in terms of points and keeping Nordic within the kind of top 3, top 4, even kind of, within the top 4, it unfortunately was, because with the amount of points that Romania scored in the final game, it ended up being Romania getting more points than Nordic region. So it's just a little bit of a shame in that regard. With Germany and kind of France having a very big day, especially in comparison to Italy, I think it's going to be a clear kind of top 2. Germany ending the day with 96 points, and France with 82 points. And Italy only 24 points. Now, Italy had a bit of a lead, but definitely not that much of a lead.
Hey, I mean, if you ask me, it works out better that way, right? Like, keep things interesting as today it was. Like, we're going to be heading into a little bit of a couple days break, but there's still so many more matches to be played. And in a way, what a better way to end it for now, with all the teams being neck and neck once again, once we start ramping things up, after the break. So, Imperium, final thoughts for today. I mean, if you had to say one word, my word would be spectacular for today's matches.
My word would be probably ridiculous. But in like the best possible way. Just between the circle endings, the moments, the individual plays, the clutches, it all just led to ridiculousness. So I'm so looking forward to next week. Everyone watching, on a side note, thank you so much for tuning into the first week. Any feedback, don't be afraid to reach out to myself and Imperium, myself or Zute, or anyone for the production crew, because feedback is how we all improve. There's a 4-day break because of the Chinese New Year before we kick off week number 2 of the Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Get some rest, get preparing, because next week I think you can agree Zute is going to be just as exciting.
I mean, it's been only getting better every day. I didn't think it was possible. I thought we hit like a peak at some point, but it is still going strong. So make sure you guys tune back in. We will be back on the 2nd of February. So same time,
yes.
same place. You know, you got Imperium, you got but you also got these community teams that just seem to be, you know, improving every single day. So I'm curious to see what will happen next week.
Yeah, definitely. Greece, the Czech Republic, Slovakia region, UK. Let's see what you got. On that note, we're going to end it here and not waste any of your time. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely evening. Look after yourselves, and we will see you all next week.